This special meeting for the Board of Trustees of Socorro ISD is being held today, Wednesday, April 24th, 2024. The time is 5:31. Mr. Nahida is on his way, but running a little late, so we're going to go ahead and get started. If you will all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. We'll move on to item number 3, open public comment. Each person who signed up was provided a copy of the open forum basic rules and advised when they sign up for that policy, BED applies to the process. Please respect the process during your presentation, and we'll proceed to open forum public comment at this time. Our first speaker tonight is Tommy Hill.
How you guys doing tonight? How you doing, Mr. Vasquez, members of the board, Mr. Castellano, Ms. Nahara? Okay, we're going to be talking about health insurance tonight. I want to go, people are in the bubble. A lot of people like to remember SISD as what it is, but don't burst their bubble for them to go somewhere else on the decisions we make tonight. We know there has to be cuts, but don't kill us on the cuts, please. That's what I just want to say. We know. Our organization is actively working with HR, technology, and Mr. Vasquez, the Associate Superintendent, to discuss ideas and ways to work together to overcome these challenges. We know what we got to do. We just don't want to go too far, where next year it's worse because we got 50, 60 kids in classrooms. We don't have buses, on and on, just down the line. Please don't go too far. And one thing that we talk about is step increases, but in actuality, have we really done that? No, but please look at it. I know the money is bad right now, but we've always talked about it. Never really done it. So thank you very much. Good day.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Rosie Pettis.
Good evening, Interim Superintendent Mr. Vasquez and members of the board. My name is Rosie Perez, and I proudly represent the members of West Texas Alliance. For the last few months, we've been hearing about the budget deficit, and we've been hearing about the ways that the district has come up with to tackle that budget deficit. Some of the ideas were totally wrong for our district and would have had devastating effects on our employees. Lately, we've been hearing that the budget deficit is because of the employees, because of the raises given to employees in the last few years. I would like to make something clear, and I would like to emphasize that this type of rhetoric needs to stop. There's been a series of missteps from the district, from previous district employees and previous school board members, and these series of missteps with the budget is what has gotten us here to this point. Those well-deserved raises that were given in these last few years is what is going to get these employees through these tough times and in this current situation. This type of rhetoric will have a negative effect on the retention of your current and loyal employees. It will affect recruiting employees to the district, and it can also affect families wanting to bring their children to the district. So let's change that narrative. Let's stop pointing fingers and let's start collaborating with fresh, innovative ideas to tackle this issue, while at the same time respecting your employees, respecting their thoughts, their skills that work, the work that they do, and let's start listening to their ideas. Let's work together to solve this problem. That negativity has no place in the future of Socorro Independent School District. And if you want to build a future of Socorro School District and all of its capabilities by working together, that's how we're going to solve this problem. I hope that I don't hear from my members after today that they were being blamed for this budget deficit. It will be challenging, absolutely. Will there be growing pains? Definitely. Can we come together with a feasible plan that entails sacrifices on both sides, support on both sides, teamwork and transparency on all sides? Definitely. But this is the only way that we will get through this, that we will rise above it and we will learn from it so that we won't repeat these same mistakes, and that we will restore the integrity and reputation of Socorro ISD. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no objections at this time, we are going to move item number 6 for the presentations for the search firms up so that we can take care of those before we get to our budget workshop and other items on the agenda. Are they here in person? And 2 of them will be over Zoom? Okay, so number 1 on our list is the ALMA Advisory Group.
At the start of the meeting, they were not available online yet, so we're going to see if they are available, and if not, then we'll go on to the next one. Oh, look, it looks like they are.
We don't have them here. They're not here on our screens.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me, and in case it's me you're looking for, just want to make sure you know I'm here.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Okay, yes, ma'am, we are ready to begin if you want to start.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And thanks to your team as well for facilitating the ability of our small but mighty team to be here with you this afternoon, evening, where I am to share a little bit more about my advisory group and our superintendent search process. So with that, I'm going to share my screen, if that's okay with you all, just to walk through a few key components of our process and our team. And I won't be able to see you all while I'm presenting, but please feel free to interject at any point if you have any questions or if there's anything I could do to answer your questions. So let me pull this up. And if you all could just, yep, I mean, I see my screen, so that works perfect. I hope you all can see it as well. Great. So you all just give me verbal cues would help me a lot if you have any questions or you need a pause. Otherwise, I'll continue moving through our presentation. Good evening. My name is Eliana Pereira, and I'm the Chief of Staff. And I'm actually one of the founding team members with ALMA Advisory Group. Monica Santana Rosen, our CEO, is unfortunately on a flight at this time and is just unable to make it. She sends her regards and wishes she was here with you all this evening. Again, I want to thank you for all of the arrangements and accommodating us this evening. I'm looking forward to sharing a little bit more about our firm and our process. And I also want to share that I'm also fully bilingual in Spanish, and I'm happy to translate or to conduct the interview in Spanish, if that's helpful. Our slides are bilingual so that they are accessible in both languages as well. So Alma Advisory Group was founded in 2016, and since then our mission has remained steady and the same. It's always been about creating the best conditions for staff, for leaders to do their best work on behalf of students. When we first started Alma in 2016, our primary focus was human resources, talent, development, leadership pipelines. And over the years, we've moved into superintendent and executive search. And I'll share a little bit more about that transition. We are one of the newer players in the superintendent search space, but been steadily growing, and it's actually been the fastest growing area for our group and our team. I want to take a moment as a point of privilege to introduce our CEO, Monica Santana Rosen, who is a child of immigrants herself of Dominican descent, of which I am as well, no coincidence. And she brings a depth of wealth of experience as a human resource professional, as a leadership development professional with more than 25 years of experience, and has just really become a trusted advisor for organizations across the country. Monica has pulled together an incredible team of leaders and individuals to support all of our work. And on this slide, we're sharing with you the team that would be dedicated to supporting the Socorro superintendent search. Our team members are also comprised of leaders who bring a depth of knowledge and experience. Sydney, in particular, has led a number of community engagement efforts, and this is actually his core background and experience is around really bringing communities together, collecting input, and authentically connecting with communities. Nita is our data analyst, and all things data run through Nita. She would be charged with developing any community surveys we develop, analyzing that data, and would also be really supportive in conducting any scheduling and technical needs on our team. I'm one of the community engagement leads as well on our team, as I'm one of the bilingual members of the group, as well as Monica, that we could facilitate interviews, focus groups, media presentations in English and in Spanish. I would also largely be tasked with translating a lot of our work to ensure that it meets the community's needs. And lastly, we have Naja Thompson, who's a former educator as well, and serves as our recruitment specialist. So he's really charged with helping us begin sourcing and looking for candidates who not just are looking for opportunities, but some who may not be thinking about opportunities as well. And he's had incredible success in identifying leaders for the searches we've been able to support over the years. And I'll just keep rolling through these if that's okay. But again, if at any point you have any questions, I'm happy to stop and answer them. So what I'd like to share about what you can expect from our team, and I'll start by sharing that for those of you who have participated in searches, in other executive searches, you'll be familiar with the typical search firm fee of about 34% of total compensation for that hire. Almost fee is definitely lower than that. However, we are likely higher than some of the other bidders that are typically in the superintendent search space for public school districts. We do want to explain our price point a little bit and the investment that you would be making by hiring our team. First, it starts with our belief that people with the most at stake in this decision shouldn't have the opportunity to provide input. They really should be centered in everything that we do. So community voice really becomes integral to all aspects of our process. And we will work with you to ensure that there's deep engagement of the community, to seek out voices of those that are hardest to reach, and to build a process that is fully accessible to your community. Second, I'll share that we have a strong track record for talented and diverse pools of leaders. Um, and we really deeply care about the process through this. Our process really focuses on a step-by-step mitigating bias so that your board of trustees can make the best hiring decision for your district. We support every step of the process, working with you to design the interview activities, the questions, performance tasks. We build the tools for you, and we help prepare you for interviews. We also offer anti-bias training for anyone who may be participating in the process. Finally, one of the shining strengths is our strong facilitation and partnership with school boards. It is our goal to support you as you build alignment on what you are looking for and what you think is most important. And so we facilitate those conversations and discussions so that all voices are heard and considered, and so that you can bring your best selves as a governing body to reach a decision that you all feel proud of through this process. On this slide are some of the results from our prior searches. And this is inclusive of all the searches that Alma has completed to date. But I want to just highlight that this focus on race and equity is really integral to our process, and it shows up in our data. These numbers are not by accident, but by design, and are very critical to the reasons why we are so uh, intentional about how we establish those facilitated conversations with you as a board, how we design the screening process throughout the course of the process to ensure that, again, at every step of the way, we're looking at the competencies as a guiding force, kind of as our North Star as we're identifying candidates to move forward at every stage. Last but not least, you know, we've done our research, and we know that we're not, you know, every board, every district has to identify a search firm that meets their needs. We are particularly excited about Socorro because we understand there are many challenges at the moment, and unfortunately, that's just the case in so many of the school districts where we are currently working. But something that really stands out to us is the incredible warmth and receptivity of your community. We think that not only the legacy of the district and the service that it provides to the community, but we really see this as a great opportunity for a leader that brings perhaps some of the operational strength that you all may be looking for in the next leader. And I don't want to jump the gun in terms of sharing what competencies or what kind of profile I think would be best. But there's a lot of great things that are happening in Socorro that would make this an incredible opportunity for the right leader. And so some of the things that, again, I really saw the strength of a lot of the programming that's already in place, the strength of the success of your students in particular. So there's a lot of great things to build from that with the right leader could help get Socorro to this next stage and to reach its full potential. So that's a little bit about us. I wanted to keep it brief. I know you have our full proposal, but I also want to ensure that we have ample time for any questions that you may have and anything that I can help clarify during our time together.
Questions?
Yes. Question, of the school districts that you have at superintendent's hire, what are the size of those districts?
So the sizes of the districts have really varied from 10,000 students all the way upwards of 50, 60,000 students, and I can double check that for you. I know that in our proposal, we shared the districts we've placed superintendents, which have included Denver Public Schools, and I'm not remembering the exact number of, just based on student enrollment, what those look like. But like right now we're in Lawrence and they're at a much smaller scale than you are. Also very large Latino community, that one mostly Dominican. But we've served in districts from the medium to larger scale in our superintendent search practice.
What size of pool of candidates do you anticipate you'll have available for us to select from?
That's a great question, and that really depends. And I would argue that this is something that makes us unique. Like, we don't have a set pool of leaders or a resume bank that we share continuously with the districts that we work with. We really work to build a pool of leaders based on the criteria, the skills, and the qualifications that you as a board and your community identify for Socorro. So something that we would do in the very beginning of our engagement would be to meet with each of you one-on-one to listen for those criteria. What do you think is most important for a leader to bring in order to be successful in not just in the role, but in the role within Socorro at this time? And then we would have those same conversations with staff, with students, with other members of your community. From that, we would develop a very extensive leadership profile, which includes the competencies that guide the recruitment process. From that, we would work together. We would hope to have bi-weekly opportunities to connect with your board to keep you abreast of the progress of the search. And at that point, we would define what we think would be an appropriate size pool for your district. It really depends on the qualities and criteria. So it's hard to say what that pool could look like. But immediately we would start working amongst our networks to not just post online, but like I said, really connect with our vast network of leaders from across the country to make connections with potential candidates. I'm sorry, it's like a non-answer, but it's just authentically how we've established that our process.
You stated earlier that our district's under, we're going to be facing a conservatorship here. How would that affect your pool? And have you hired or actually served a district that were under similar circumstances as our district?
Yeah, I'll share that. And I mean, it's public information. We're currently working with Lawrence Public Schools in Massachusetts. My apologies for that. And they are under receivership from the state and have been for over 12 years now. We're in the midst of a superintendent search for that district and have received a really great reception from leaders who are interested in serving as the next superintendent. So part of what we would do is, and we're always very honest and very upfront because we want to ensure, right, that you identify a leader that not just meets the hard skills, if you will, the technical know-how to be able to do the work, but also that has a firm understanding of where the district and your community is at this point in time. Are they able, do they have the skills and the acumen to take on this type of challenge? And there are different challenges everywhere we look across the country. So yes, we do have experience serving districts and communities that are under some kind of state control or state overtake. It's not unfamiliar to us. We would work together to communicate that to potential candidates. And again, help them understand the situation and how they can best, step forward into that position.
Also, one more question. Your pool of candidates, this is from a nationwide search, or is it just, is there a particular part of the country you're picking superintendents from?
We typically would conduct a nationwide search, and with the mobility of the workforce nowadays, it's hard to say, what part of the country the right leader will come. There could be El Paso, former El Paso residents that could be in any part of the country, and we wouldn't want to miss that. There are other leaders who have the experience that you would need to succeed in this role at this time. And so we would extend a nationwide search for a superintendent candidate, like I said, really check across all of our networks with our partners to get the word out about this opportunity and look for the right leaders. We would also work with you as a board from the start to also identify if there are any internal candidates that would be up for consideration, any community members, perhaps even in other school networks that might be potentials of interest. So we would also include you as part of our recruitment process to tap into your networks as well to ensure that we can really do a thorough review and identify the folks that would be most suited and would be excited and proud to take this on as their next role.
Thank you.
Of course.
I'm done.
Thank you for your presentation. I do appreciate the diversity of your staff and the warmth that comes across in your CEO's mission and in your delivery of your presentation. Now, did you say that Lawrence Public Schools, is that the school that you say is currently under a possible conservatorship?
They have been under receivership from the state, the Department of Education in the state of Massachusetts for about 12 years. Yes.
Oh, okay. And the only reason I'm asking is it appears that the search has been ongoing for that particular. That search is still in progress, is what I meant to say. So are you facing
Yes,
some
ma'am.
difficulty finding someone?
Not at all. We are in the final stages and excited to very soon be announcing our finalists. It has been a wonderful search. Personally, I have family there, so it's just been a wonderful opportunity to support and serve that community. But no, we actually have met all of our targets with Lawrence, had a very robust, very diverse pool of candidates as well. And so we're very, very proud of the effort there. And again, in huge, huge part because of the just incredible diligence of the team that we've put together. So yes, that one's actually been following the timeline we agreed to with DESE, which is the state, and then with the members of the Lawrence Alliance for Education as well. We're very excited about that one.
Okay.
We're in the very final stages, so it's been a busy few weeks.
Okay, thank you. And one more question.
course.
With regards to your experience in Texas, is it just with KIP?
So KIP Texas is one of our most recent searches. It is the only search and I just went through the list again to make sure I wasn't missing anything. But Texas, yeah, that's the one Texas-based search that we have conducted.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, thank you for the question.
Yes, Ms. Pereira, could you reiterate the price point and cost again?
Sure. So our typical price point for a search is based on 32% of the expected salary for the position. And I'm just pulling up the proposal because I just closed it out. But I believe that with the total fees, and that included advertising, it included travel for our team as well. And then any of the activities described in the full scope of work are all inclusive of that price point. And I'm so sorry because I did just close it out, but I believe that the final price point for that search came up to $92,000 if I'm not mistaken. And I'll pull it up in just a second. Sorry about that. I had all these tabs open and then I closed the wrong one. Oops.
And my teammates just shared that we have a book with that on there, so I believe that price point is exactly what's
Is that
on our
exactly
site.
right? I'm hoping. Yes, I just found it. I'm so sorry about that. Yes, so it was $84,000 for the executive search fee, and we included about $8,000, which would be inclusive of advertising and travel expenses for our staff to be on site, and that's including the community engagement visit, which typically will bring out possibly 3 or 4, depending on the number of engagements that you would like to prioritize for that time. But it would include that. It would also include opportunities for our CEO to come out and meet with the board individually to get kind of the search running, to conduct training with you all, and then to conduct debrief conversations after the interview rounds. Because we've just found that those are more productive when we're together and able to discuss, again, here's what we're learning, here's what we're hearing, but we like to facilitate that part of the process to ensure, again, we're as a united front coming back to the competencies we've identified as most important for the role and in helping us make the determinations around candidates moving through the process.
Thank you for sharing what that cost entails. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You're very welcome. Thank you for the question.
Ms. Pereira, how would you describe our district to potential candidates in order to try and recruit them to the search?
Yeah, you know, and I don't want to pretend like I know. I have not been on site in Socorro, and I don't like to. I don't want to misspeak, but I think as I did a lot of the research, right, in preparation for this proposal, something that really stood out to me in both your district site, looking at the district plan, looking at some of the communications you've shared with the community, is that familial sense. Like, there's a real sense of connection across your community that feels really warm and familiar to me. So that's something I would share. I was really impressed with the number of programs that you all have available to students, all of the dual language programs. As a former ESL student myself, at least that's what we used to call ourselves, was really appealing. I appreciated how much you're doing to support families through your pre-K programs. I think it's something that's really appealing, just given the challenges with childcare. The year-round calendar was something that was also really impressive. I've been part of conversations in other parts of the country where that's up for consideration, and to see that that's something available in Socorro was really impressive, and I think could also be very appealing to a candidate. So I think what I would share with someone interested in wanting to learn more is that there is an incredible warmth and depth of families and that are wrapping themselves around the community. I would speak to the long history that Socorro has in serving the community. And I would very honestly share that it's a district that is currently in need of, rebuilding trust in some areas, that is in need of really securing some of its perhaps operational or financial factors to ensure that the district can continue to serve students and families in a way that's aligned with the mission and vision that you've articulated. But there's a lot of positive that I think is available in Socorro that won't require a big sell to the right candidate. And I think that that's something that would be really exciting. I think that there's some leaders that are just genuinely very, very talented at, coming in and establishing the supports, the processes, and the procedures that allow the operations to really be strong, and then really allow the district to continue to flourish in terms of the instruction and teaching and learning, as well as some of the social emotional supports and components that are also part of your schools and programs. So I hope that kind of answered it. And again, with that caveat that part of the
Ms. Pereira?
process for our team. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, I'm sorry, but the 15-minute Q&A
okay.
is up. So
I'm so sorry. I'm very long-winded, so I really apologize. And I hope I answered your question. And I apologize, I can't see you all while I'm talking. So I appreciate the interjection. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate your time and your willingness to participate in our process.
Thank you so much. It's great to meet you all. Thank you for this evening.
Up next, we have McPherson and Jacobson. I left my car. Mr. Gilson, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
All right. Mr. Gilson, I'm not sure if the process was described to you. Hopefully it was, so this isn't the first time that you're hearing it, but we'll have essentially a 30-minute presentation that is the 15 minutes where you present to us, whatever presentation you have that gives us an overview of your offerings, et cetera. If you are not complete at the end of the 15-minute period, it will be timed, so I will stop you, and then we'll allow 15 minutes for a Q&A session. We'll get as many questions and answers in there as possible. But again, after the end of the 15 minutes, then we'll go ahead and finish the Q&A session, and then thank you and proceed with the next ones. Okay? Any questions for me, sir?
No, thank you.
All right, sounds good. The floor is yours.
Well, President Nahara and the Socorro Independent School District Board of Trustees, thank you so much for the opportunity for me to meet with you today. My name is Randy Gilson, and I've worked as a national consultant with McPherson Jacobson for 8 years. And for the past 13 years, I've also been a superintendent. I want to begin by extending my sincere appreciation to each of you for the exemplary leadership and dedication to the SISD school district. With a student body of over 48,000 and a staff of over 7,000, your district stands as a beacon of excellence in education, and your commitment to providing high quality learning experiences and a nurturing environment for students is commendable. Selecting and retaining a high quality superintendent is the most important role for a school board. Research conducted by Marzano and McCrell found that a superintendent's tenure has a positive impact on student achievement, especially if the superintendent has had experience of more than 10 years within a school district. So our goal as a firm is really driven by what is best for students, and that is to assist you to find a leader who is the right fit and can reach 10 years or more of longevity with the Socorro Independent School District. According to other research, the national average tenure for a superintendent is about 3 to 4 years. There are currently over 120 superintendent searches going on nationally and 13 active superintendent searches in Texas. So now it's more important than ever for you to have the right support plan in place and have the correct assistance with your search. Today, I want to share with you the process that we believe in and include some specific services that we provide. And I want to share this as part of a 5-phase timeline that's in the RFP that we've shared with you. You might consider using this search, and I'll provide you with the price of those services throughout the end of the presentation. So what sets McPherson apart are the results. In the last 5 years, 85% of the superintendents hired using the McPherson and Jacobson search tool are still in place, and over 55% are in their same role 10 years later, hitting our goal. In fact, over 40% of the administrators selected by governing boards within our searches are still in place 15 years after they were hired. So how do we get those results? It's truly the process. Our firm has 30 years of experience conducting superintendent searches nationally. If you refer to page 14 in the RFP, you'll see a list of our national searches in the last 5 years. And then you'll also see a breakdown of those searches by enrollment. We've conducted 30 searches with similar enrollment to your district, and our consultant team that would be working on this search would include Dr. Steve Joel. He was unable to be here tonight because he's finishing a search in Reno, Nevada, but he'll lead the search, and he's conducted over 60 searches nationally, primarily with student enrollments of 20,000 or more. Dr. Gustavo Valderas, who's the president-elect for the National Association of Latino Administrator Superintendents, and he's also been the AASA National Superintendent of the Year, will also be involved in the search. And then Dr. Trigg, who's a superintendent in Dallas, Texas, at Highland Park, would also be involved with the search. And then myself, I'm currently a superintendent and also director of was prior a director of human resources in a Phoenix school district that at the time was the second fastest growing in the country. But we have an extended team of over 120 consultants. And so we're able to just work as a team on one search at a time, but you still have that large network to tap into. If you choose our firm, our team will immediately begin working with you to help choose a point of contact so that we can immediately assist you in sending out a press release, letters to your staff, community, the news media, to inform them about the search. Transparency is our hallmark, and building partnerships with key stakeholders throughout the search is a reason we can help you find the right fit. We also begin developing informational marketing materials so candidates have the right information necessary to apply. We feel it's important to seek community involvement and immediately like to post a community input survey on your website and also send this survey directly to patrons. This allows us to get critical input from them, and then also it helps us to find out what your patrons are looking for in a superintendent, and also what are some of the pressing needs that the next superintendent would need to know. Next, we have one-on-one meetings in person or by phone with you to learn your goals, and then we set up a board of trustee meeting at your earliest convenience, so that we can, at this meeting, identify the most important characteristics you're looking for in a superintendent. These characteristics then become a template for us to help recruit and select candidates to help find the right fit. Prior to and at that first board meeting, we'd also have each of you identify key people from the community that help to make up a diverse stakeholder group to ensure a broad-based stakeholder input into the selection process. We then communicate directly and highly engage these community members, parents, staff members throughout the search. Often they end up being on an interview committee, and they also help you to select your next superintendent. What is so valuable about our process is after you select a superintendent, we help them in phase 5 form close relationships with you and also key stakeholders. And then your new superintendent is set up with information to assist them to set goals with the Board of Trustees, an entry plan, and then find immediate successes aligned to the key issues that your stakeholders identified. Some of these, I know you're dealing with is growth and the emergence of charter schools in your area. And so we'll help to develop that person to develop a plan with you and goals during that first year to help maintain success. At the first meeting, we'll also establish closing dates, an advertising plan, and we have a pretty significant national reach with over 25 years of experience. We've conducted over 1,000 searches, and in our database, we have a network of over 1,000 superintendents. Our website gets 225,000 hits per month, and our 120 consultants nationwide have a strong network. We then provide a plan and meetings for stakeholders and include students to get feedback. And these in-person meetings are critical. We provide online tools for people that can't be there, but the stakeholder meetings are very important to us in establishing the criteria in the process. Throughout the search, we communicate with candidates, we recruit, and we heavily recruit candidates that fit the criteria that you establish. We conduct thorough background checks, including all screening, so that you're in control of the search all the time, but you don't have to do the heavy lifting in the day-to-day matters. I've shared with you on page 56 our fee. I want to stress that we provide a 2-year guarantee. So if the person leaves a position within 2 years, we redo the search at no charge. And we also price match. So if there's another competitive bid, we'll provide the comparable services for that price. But the price that for the search is found on page 56, and it's not to exceed $64,750. That includes 30 days of advertisement in AASA, 30 days in the National Alliance of Black School Educators, 6 weeks in the Association of Latino American Administrators and Superintendents. And then I can be glad to answer any other questions you have. Thank you so much for your unwavering support for students and for ensuring that every student and staff member in your district has the opportunity to excel and succeed. We are convinced that our process of identifying your most important selection criteria and providing transparency in a meaningful and involving stakeholders throughout the process will help fulfill our mission to help you find quality leadership for educational excellence. Your contributions make a lasting impact on the lives of community members and shape the future of our society. We are truly grateful for your outstanding leadership.
Thank you, Mr. Gilson.
I don't know if I'm inside 15 minutes, but yeah.
Okay. Mr. Gilson, you have 5 more minutes. Are you done with your presentation, sir?
Yeah, I'd be glad to answer questions.
Okay, sounds good. We'll go ahead and move over to questions. We'll start with Ms. Macias.
And I'll defer. He answered my question on pricing, and you did a very thorough job of sharing what that price entails as far as the activity. So thank you for doing that.
Okay.
Yep.
What size of pool of candidates do you anticipate for our district?
Well, we will really be aggressive in trying to find the right fit. And so the pool nationally for school district, your size can vary between 10 and 20 candidates. Timing is essential, but we'll work hard. We do a lot of calls, again, with our network of 120 people. Once you help us identify the criteria, the characteristics you're looking for in a superintendent, we'll be very aggressive in using our network to try to get a pool with high quality, again, that fit the criteria that you're looking for. I would say 10 to 20 is, it depends on the time of the year. Earlier in the year, you could look to 10 to 20. Sometimes it's 6 to 10, but our goal is to give you a pool that gives you a tough decision on who to select to interview. And then from there, we hope to have a lot of candidates that would make the decision hard. And we want that to be in a good way because so many of the candidates would hit the criteria that you're looking for and that your kids need.
I don't know how much research you did in our district. SISD is about to enter into a TEA conservatorship. How are you going to promote that with your pool of candidates, or how will that affect what we have available for us to select from?
Yeah, so I've had a chance to do research, and I'm just amazed by your district that was once very small. It started 60 years ago as a small rural district, and now is just exploded with growth. You cover 130 square miles and have 50 campuses and 7,000 employees, 48,000 students. I know that growth you've done an excellent job of staying ahead of growth. Again, we believe in our process, and really the staple of the process and why we've had success in other searches with enrollments of over 20,000. The national average, as I mentioned, was 3 to 4 years of longevity in a superintendent. But with your district and such a balance and the strategic plan that you developed and the commitment to rigorous academic values, and then also the successes that your kids have had in fine arts and the opportunities that you provided and the celebration and the involvement of the community, I think you have a lot to offer candidates. The job will be very competitive for candidates in terms of, I think it'd be highly desirable. There's a lot for us to market about your district. And again, just the broad-based successes and celebrations that you've had. I mean, you do a great job. I think your public relations department has been a state winner 3 times in a row. But more importantly, I mean, whether it's Destination Imagination and the involvement and the impact your kids have in that, it's the Dell scholarship winners that you have, the Gold Crown winning journalism team, the success. I think you had 5 of your high schools reach the mariachi state, festival this year, and the success you've had with soccer, and then again the fine, outstanding academic program. There's so much for us to market about your district. And in terms of getting a pool, we work really hard. I think when you look at your pool would be rich with sitting superintendents, and sometimes it's hard to get a superintendent to just apply in a traditional way. And so by us reaching out with our network and really recruiting candidates and building their confidence that they're the right fit based on the criteria that you establish, we're really confident that, and again, this is the bread and butter of our process of, again, really being thorough in listening to your stakeholders through in-person communication and through the surveys, and then really building a strong trust and relationship with you as a board of trustees, so that we can really nail down the criteria you're looking for. And then again, that it gets easy for us. With our network, we know superintendents very well. We know emerging superintendents very well. And so again, we can just bring in a pool and that's where we've had success, especially when you look at the track record of Dr. Joel, who would be leading the search. He's just had a lot of success in working with districts of your size.
One more. What is your track record in putting superintendents in districts that are under the same state oversight that we're about to go through? What is your success rate?
Yeah, well, I think again, it goes back to, it's finding the match. There's experienced superintendents out there that have gone through, the watchful eye and the service, of what you're dealing with. And so it's really trying to identify those superintendents or those administrators that, again, exemplify the experiences that you're going to need to get you through, the challenges that lie ahead. And federal and state testing mandates and student achievement improvement and things like that, we have confidence that, again, that we can attract a pool. Your district would be very marketable for the right candidates. But again, it goes back to really pinning down the needs of what you're looking for, and then finding the right fit. And again, that's, I think, where we work really hard. Our team that I shared with you today, plus the other consultants within our network, can help to find administrators with experience to apply. I also think that our vetting process, we interview candidates as part of screening, and we ask questions aligned to your needs. And then that helps us to create an objective assessment of each candidate that we can share with you. And then from there, we do video interviews so you can see that administrator interact in person. And then we like to share the video interviews with you. But again, it's our job. What you have in this team is successful superintendents who's been in the role. I've worked with a district personally that the state took over our school, and we had success, again, building a team around to move away from that, or to move out of that and get our students to the tools that they needed, the strategies that they needed, so that they could have success.
Mr. Gilsey, can you elaborate on the 2-year guarantee process?
Yeah, so if for any reason, if the search were to fail, we'll conduct the search at no cost. The only cost that you would incur would be the travel expenses of the consultants, but we would re-advertise the search, and we would spend the same amount of effort in trying to find the right fit. It doesn't happen to our firm a lot, but it's happened before, and we've found success the second time around. It's for whatever reason, we really highly value our phase 5. So phase 5 means we'll come back that first year, because sometimes what we found in the research is that if there's any challenges during the first year, especially in board of trustee and superintendent trust and relationship, sometimes the tenure of a superintendent starts to decrease. And so we spend a lot of time, again, trying to find the right fit, and then working with the superintendent and you during that first year. What I think works very well is we'll build hundreds of stakeholders, and then we'll, again, try to build relationships between the superintendent and those stakeholders as they start their entry plan. We encourage an entry plan. We encourage goal setting between the board, us, and the new superintendent. And then during that first year, that's where we really found success. So if for any reason you or the superintendent parts ways within those first 2 years, we redo the search.
I have one question. You mentioned a thorough background check. What does that entail?
We go 5 deep, and we contact references that aren't listed on a typical resume or reference letters. For example, superintendents that work in other districts, once we're able to get them to commit and apply, we will contact their board members. We'll contact past board members. We'll go into the community and contact stakeholders. We'll contact maybe key people within government, within the community that they may have worked or interacted with. We'll reach out to parents, and then we ask the question to every person who's someone on the list we should talk to, and someone on the list that maybe would have differing opinions about. So we go very deep. We spend a lot of time, and all of our questions are aligned to the characteristics you identify in the search. When the stakeholders, we spend a lot of time, and there's a tool now that we use, an electronic tool that we use to help support us called Insight. But we use the same process in terms of just us making the calls. The 5 on the team that are, again, have experience as superintendents, we're the ones doing the background checks. It's not someone else. And when we share the pool with you, we're very articulate, and we're very, we use an objective tool to identify the match in the criteria and the characteristics you were looking for in a superintendent. And again, we just make sure that there's no errors along the way in terms of a misstep if in someone's back. We want to make sure, sometimes on paper, who might look like might have the most experience might not quite be the right fit for your district and the needs that you have. And so we really try to break that down for you as a board. Does that help answer?
Yes, thank you.
I do have one quick question. Just compliments to your resume. It's quite impressive. However, would we be your first Texas ISD, or do you have others that you're currently working with?
No, you would be our first Texas ISD school district. We have a lot in California and Arizona and in 46 states. We just haven't had a team in Texas. As I said, this team that we've assembled here, we do a lot of national searches, as you can see, but Dr. Trigg has experience working in the Dallas area. And again, we're trying to build a team We believe, but again, we work for you, but we believe that you'll have a lot of national interest and then also local interest, but we'll work hard in Texas to get all the candidates that meet the profile to, I mean, we ask, we listen, and we're not afraid to call. And again, through our network of 120 consultants, a lot of times one of us have a strong relationship with a candidate that's the right fit. And that's always helpful. But we haven't had the experience of conducting a search in Texas yet.
Mr. Gilson, during your presentation, you mentioned surveys, and then you said both online and then that they could be distributed. But does your firm engage in community meetings, actually engaging the community stakeholders in open sessions?
Yeah, we do. We come on site, and and again, as we work with you as a board of trustees, we'll give you a lot of different options, but at a minimum, we like to talk to students. We like to talk to teachers and staff members, so your faculty and your staff. We meet with the district, the cabinet, and also school building administrators. And then we go out and we encourage community and also parents to come in. We like to give as many opportunities one-on-one. So we put 2 days in the proposal, but the experience I've had recently, I've spent almost a week, and we, with 5 consultants, sometimes we'll bring in even more of our team of 120. But we like as much face-to-face so that we can ask follow-up questions and really, again, drill down and try to learn what the qualities of superintendent, but then also what some of the issues, so that they can know those issues, and that within that extension of because you've already got a strategic plan that I've looked at and it's amazing, but you probably are going to extend some of those goals, or there might be some new goals that emerge in the superintendent's entry plan. And so we don't like to leave any stone uncovered when we look at the diversity of your students, and we try to have diversity in your community as well. We like for those groups to be in person, but
Mr.
we've also
Gilson?
had good luck with,
I'm sorry. 15 minutes for the Q&A is up.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for your presentation, sir, and your time and your willingness to participate. We'll be in touch soon. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay, next up is O'Hanlon, Demarath, and Castillo. Sure.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Cindy Nakeda. Cindy Nakeda.
Okay, just a quick review of the process. Did y'all bring a presentation?
We did,
Yeah, you
yes.
did. Are you guys ready?
And it's up on the, that's right, yes.
Okay. Okay. Quick review of the process. It's a 30-minute total presentation. First 15 minutes is your presentation. As soon as I hand the floor to you, the timer will start. If you're not done by the time the timer does hit the 15-minute, unfortunately, I will stop you at 15 minutes. Next 15 minutes is Q&A. So we'll reset the clock, initiate, board will ask you questions. Hopefully we'll get as many questions as we can in with answers as well when we reach the 15-minute mark for the Q&A session. If you're still in the middle, unfortunately, again, I will stop you and then we'll thank you. So any questions for me?
No questions?
All right, thank you then. Floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So Good evening, members of the board. We just want to thank you so much for having us out here tonight and giving us this opportunity to present to you all. So we are very, very excited to be here with you all tonight at Socorro ISD. Again, my name is Shelley Smith, and I'm a partner at the law firm of O'Hanlon, Demrath, and Castillo. I know that you all have a rather large RFQ package in front of you that has a lot of our information in it, and I'm sure you all have already, browsed through and gotten a lot of information. But my goal tonight is to run through that package, and I want to highlight some of the things that I think are really special about what we bring to the table, and also why I think that you all should hire us to be your partner in your superintendent search. So without further ado, my team here today with me, I have Andrea Vella, who is an up-and-coming associate in our firm, who is wonderful and already has significant experience in superintendent searches under her belt. And then also we have the esteemed shareholder, Nicholas Maddox, who has considerable expertise in board representation, superintendent searches, and he's well known throughout the state with his practice of special education law. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started on the actual meat and potatoes of the presentation. So one thing about O'Hanlon, Demrath, and Castillo is that we have a statewide firm. We have 4 offices. We have a San Antonio office, we have an Austin office, we have a Rio Grande Valley office, and then we also have a North Texas office. But that doesn't stop us. Our footprint is literally in every corner of the state in education law. You can overturn any rock under the education system and you'll find, a name, Kevin O'Hanlon or someone from the firm. But yes, so that is something that's really special about our firm is that 90% of what we do is school law. So most of what we do day in, day out is school law. I think that brings such a unique perspective to the superintendent search because we understand all of the little nuances. We understand the process from top to bottom. And so that's really just what we do day in and day out. We are a one-stop shop. We pride ourselves on being a one-stop shop for all things school law and also all things superintendent search related. So we are very much a turnkey service in that once you hire us to be your partner in a superintendent search, we are here to finalize the process from the beginning all the way through the ink wet on the contract drying, and you have a great person at your doorstep ready to serve your district. So I'm very proud of our nationwide reach even. We have done several superintendent searches in which we were able to open up the candidacy nationally. So we have conducted searches on that level as well. Our reaches throughout the corners of Texas are very special too because we have a wide breadth and are able to tap into such a wide market of talent here in Texas. But again, we do have the capability to conduct something on a national level as well. So our firm was started in 1994 by Kevin O'Hanlon, who was former general counsel of Texas Education Agency. Again, we eat, sleep, and breathe school law. This is what we do, and superintendent searches are one of the many ways that we provide this service to our currently existing clients and then clients all the way throughout the state of Texas. So Team SISD, I just want to say we want to be a part of that team. What our approach is generally for superintendent searches is we really like to get in and get to know your community. You all already know what you're doing. Fantastic board, fantastic, administration and leaders. You guys have a really well-oiled machine running, right? So we want to integrate ourselves seamlessly into this process. And what we want to do is create a bespoke and very personalized situation and very personalized search for you all. What we want to do is get to know you all, get to know Socorro ISD, and we want to go ahead and provide you and create a system that is uniquely tailored to Socorro ISD. So this process and this search design will be based on what you all want it to be based on. We're going to base it on your community. We have the expertise and knowledge. You tell us what you want, and we will put it together for you. We will give you ideas, options, anything that you want. You guys are already a great team again. And we just want to join forces with you and help you design and find the next new leader of SISD. It really means a lot to us that we design these bespoke programs or bespoke searches for each district. We believe that every single search should be personalized to each district because you are looking for not a cookie cutter program. We're not here to impose a cookie cutter program on you. We're not here to say, this is how you do it, this is what's done, and this is what you need to do. No, we hear from you, we hear what you want and how you want to do it, and we make it work. And then that's how we believe we find that perfect person that is going to show up at your doorstep and they are going to be ready to be here and they're going to match and fit your community. So we always, our goal is, of course, to make sure that the program that we proceed with is one that you've created for yourself, and that the heart of all of this is our ability to empower you as a board. You are the ones per board policy that have the power to hire a superintendent, and so what we want to do is make sure and empower you to do this and do it with your community and with us as a support for you. I want to say that we do have unmatched expertise in superintendent searches. So a lot of individuals you may hear from, they conduct what's called executive searches. However, our firm only focuses on superintendent searches. That's where we know our talents are, we hone in on that, and that is something that we are so proud to provide to some currently existing clients and then all throughout the state of Texas. So our focus is unrivaled. We are able to, again, we're gonna keep telling you this, our comprehensive customization is something that we're so proud of. We come in here and we just create the process that you want and it fits you all as a board and fits your community. It's also a transparent process. So we are very proud of the fact that we communicate so well with our boards and we have a great process in place. We can basically design any communication model you prefer, but it's important to us that everyone on the board is on the same page, that we're all on the same page with you, and that we loop in your community as well, and that everyone is just a part of this process, and everyone has the basic things such as even a weekly update on where we are, what we need to do, and what's upcoming. That's very important to us. We also are very diligent about our recruitment. I spoke a little bit earlier about the fact that, we have reaches all throughout Texas. One thing I want to specify is we don't have a pre-selected stable of candidates just waiting in the wings when something like this comes up. Every single person that we bring to you has applied specifically for this district. It is very important to us that we truly start this process from the ground up and that every individual that comes before you as a candidate has applied for specifically this job. And we are very, very, that's one of the things about our process that we will never change and that will always be so. We also are really, again, it's a turnkey. We get you all the way through a signed contract. So we will do all the way down to the details, even crafting very thoughtful interview questions for all of you that will help you kind of hone in on, is this a right fit for us? Is this someone that is just bluffing through the interview? Really, really getting down to the nitty-gritty of who this person is. Are they a fit for you and for your community? So we're very proud of the interview process that we are able to take care of. And we also take it all the way up through helping you negotiate and finalize and draft a contract that future superintendent would sign. And that's just one of the things that we truly want to make sure that we finalize all the way through the contract. So we have that ability, and that's how we do our searches. So there's a lot of precision in the process. We take it very much one step at a time. Our first meeting with you all would be, again, sitting down with you, getting to know you, and also learning and trying to identify what it is that SISD holds near and dear, and how we are going to communicate and how we are going to put together this process. So we identify what you all as a board want and what you want your search to look like, and we provide the timelines, we provide the outlines, everything that you will need to go forward confidently as you search for someone to lead your district. So we craft profiles, so we are able to put together candidate profiles. We take an extra step and we really, we put something together that looks like, what does SISD want? And some of the things that we have done to create these profile developments are giving surveys to different facets of the community, whether it's your employees, your community members. It's just wide ranging. We can truly do anything. We also use focus groups. We've used town halls. We ensure every voice is heard. And then we make this profile of candidates a reflection of what the data is that we collect. And that process and the data collection is as broad or as limited as you all would like it to be. We can truly tailor it to what you want. Another customized publication we put together so that when these candidates are picking up a publication, they know exactly who they're applying for, what it's gonna look like, and what Socorro ISD is about. So it's important that these candidates, that they know who they're applying to and that they know what you want. So we pride ourselves in being able to create something for these candidates that they can look and review and just make sure, like, is this a fit for me? And then also we have reputation-driven recruitment. This is also something, like I said, we don't have a stable of candidates waiting in the wings to apply to any of, that have already applied with us and that we're bringing to you. These are brand new people, or they are people who have heard of us and who have worked with us throughout various other superintendent searches. They've applied through another superintendent search for another district. They've worked with us. One thing we pride ourselves on is we will always leave your community feeling respected and heard, as well as the candidates. They're going to leave this process having had a great experience with our firm and our partnership with you all, because that is how we carry ourselves throughout the entire process. And so we also conduct very, very in-depth candidate evaluations. So it's really important to us that we do that groundwork for you all and assess kind of everything that needs to be assessed so that you guys have just the full picture of who this individual candidate is once you see them, once they're in front of you for interviews. We are also very proud of the way that we are able to hone in on interview questions and craft those for you all at every step of the way. And then also we have very transparent collaboration through all facets of the search. With you as a board, we have transparent collaboration with the community, again, and then we also have very transparent collaboration with the candidates. So we pride ourselves on everyone knowing at what place we are at every point in the process. So I'm going to turn it over to the Associate Andy Vela, she's going to talk to you a little bit about the process and a few more specifics of what we can offer you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to just quickly highlight 4 key features that I think set us apart from other superintendent search firms. The first is our approach to stakeholder input. We truly believe that no one knows your community like you do. And so one of the very first steps that we take is we meet with you to decide and to find out from you really how much community input you want in this process. You may tell us, we've got our finger on the pulse of what people in Socorro ISD want. We really don't need to spend a lot of time gathering additional input. Let's hit the ground running. And we're great with that. You may tell us that an opportunity for surveys and focus groups and town hall meetings is exactly what your community needs to kickstart this process and find your next leader. And if that's the case, we have the resources and the tools to make that happen. We've hosted bilingual and multilingual, if need be, town halls and focus groups from multiple school districts, and we're able to coordinate surveys, electronic surveys, and distill the data from those surveys to be able to present it to you in an easily digestible way. Another thing that we pride ourselves on is our candidate vetting process. We know that thoroughly vetting the candidates that we bring to you not only ensures that you find a superintendent who will fit in with your community and reflect your values, but we also know that no employer likes a surprise. And so we do our due diligence, right? We make sure that we do an extensive background analysis. We do a digital footprint review. You'll notice that we always include a question asking for social media handles and digital footprint information information from all of our candidates so that we can thoroughly look through that and bring that information to you, or bring you the information that they don't have a digital footprint, or they didn't tell us about their digital footprint. And so we understand how important that is in this day and age. We also make sure that every application is presented to the board. We don't hold anything back from you. What we do is we distill the information, right? We do the legwork to make sure. So I'll go ahead and stop there, and we can maybe deal with some more and some questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Let's proceed with questions.
Yeah, so questions. What are the size of the districts that you've had superintendents selected for?
Sure. I can answer that. Okay, sure. So we have represented a range of sizes of districts. One of the most recent superintendent searches that I actually had the opportunity to work with was Brownsville ISD, which is the largest school district south of San Antonio, and also a border town like you all. And I believe they have a population size of about 48,000 students.
Also represented the second smallest school district.
I work with Ramirez also. They
ahead.
have 21 students. So we all the way from 21 to 48,000. So we really have run the scope of sizes.
Okay, as I'm sure you're aware that SISD is going to be under TEA conservatorship, how is that going to affect the pool of candidates? And have you all selected a superintendent for somebody under that conservatorship or
To your
recovery?
second question first, yes, sir, we have. We've done Richardson ISD, DeSoto ISD, and a few others that were under conservatorship at the time. As far as yours, Board with Respect, I believe it'll make our candidate pool stronger. We have candidates coming in who will see those powerhouse superintendents out of Dallas and out of Manor, and I believe that they will understand they're not only coming into a supportive board in a team, but they also have some shoulders to lean on. So if they are uncertain, or if they're a little bit nervous about throwing their hat into the ring, they have that to lean back on. I think that's the message of positivity that we could send out to our community and to our candidates, to let them know, hey, we're here to work as a team. We're here to be supportive, and we have some big hitters here to help support you.
You mentioned two schools, DeSoto, and I didn't get the other one.
It's Richardson.
Richardson?
Yeah, to recent memory, yes.
What was
it
your
goes to.
success rate there with, what was the success rate?
They're both still there?
They're both still there, okay.
Yes, sir.
You know what, that would be fine. The other stuff was in the book.
Good there?
I'm fine.
No?
Question, as far as background checks, how do you all do that, or what process do you go through?
Yes, ma'am. So we have state and federal background checks. This is a mandatory minimum. We also do a deep dive into candidates' backgrounds in terms of their scholastic credentials, in terms of their employment credentials. We also do social media sweeps. We actually have private investigators employed with the firm. They are credentialed and licensed to do searches as well. They're a little bit deeper than the average layman can do. So we can do a very deep dive into our candidates because we believe in transparency, and we don't want any surprises for the board or for your community.
Add to that. We also leverage our network to assist in the background search process. So we have an extensive network throughout the state, and we're not afraid to call around and talk to people about the candidates that are applying and get a little bit more of a holistic idea of what they're like in their previous employment and what other people have found about them. So we have that as well.
Yeah, I think it's important to mention that we have some teammates of ours, which is Dr. Abe Saavedra. He was the former superintendent of Houston. He's a consultant of ours that tends to know everyone in the field, as well as Dr. Saavedra, former superintendent out of San Antonio. So they help review our candidates and just sort of give us the inside scoop in the school world on who's applying for your position.
Got one more. So this will only be statewide search. You're not going to go outside the state to look for candidates that could possibly apply here?
That is entirely up to the board. So we are very strong statewide because we practice statewide. Some districts want a federal reach or a national reach, if you will. We can do that. We have the resources and the connections to do that. But the board sets the geographic boundaries of your search. So we're happy to play with whatever rules you give to us.
How would you promote our district? How would you describe our district to make it stand out from the many current searches that are going on throughout the state of Texas to any potential candidates?
Yes, sir. I think right now it's a tough time to be a superintendent. And we're seeing a lot of openings across the state of Texas with a lot of different school districts. I think you'll have some unique attributes to you that are very similar to searches we've done in the past, such as Brownsville. You're on the border, your population, your size. So I think those are all calling cards that will attract a certain caliber of candidate that we can bring here. It's unique in that sense that you are on the border and you are geographically located where you are, but you're the size that you are. And you'll have the success rate that you have. And you have a lot of scholastic enterprise going on that we can advertise to the community. So I think we can certainly make your unique footprint in the superintendent pool by announcing some of those attributes. And again, I think that the fact that you have some conservators coming in, there needs to be some positivity to that. I think there is some positivity to that, and we can work that into our message to our candidate pool and say, look, come here and help us do great things. We're on the right track.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? All right, thank you all very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you for
your
the
time.
opportunity. We appreciate you.
Thank you for participating. Good night. Our final presentation is from the Texas Association of School Board Executive Search Services. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, good evening.
Presentations queued up, sir. Just a quick review of the process tonight. We do have 30 minutes for the presentation. The first 15 minutes are yours. As soon as I hand the floor over to you, you'll hear the timer begin. It will be for 15 minutes. Hopefully you can complete your presentation within 15 minutes. If you happen to hear the timer, that means that time's up. If you don't bring it to a close, then I will stop you. Okay. After that, we'll reset the timer, start the 15-minute Q&A session. Board members are free to ask questions of you. Again, we'll get as many questions in and as many answers in that 15 minutes. When the timer's up, then presentation's over. Okay, any questions for me, gentlemen?
The timer, is it somewhere where we can see it? Show me. Oh, she's doing it. Okay, it's not.
Yeah,
okay.
she's got it. Would you like?
That's okay. Bella's behind me. Can help.
All right, sounds good. Then with that, the floor is yours.
Okay. Well, good evening. My name is George Kazanis, and I'm with the Texas Association of School Boards. I am Division Director of the Executive Search Services as well as Field Services. So it's such an honor to be here tonight. We really appreciate the opportunity to reply to your request for proposal and to be here in person. So thank you again for the invitation. Behind me is Mr. Ruben Cervantes. Mr. Cervantes is the Region 19 representative of TASB. He calls on your district. He calls on all of the districts within Region 19, and he is a former superintendent, just recently retired. He lives here in Horizon City, and he would be part of the team that would be working with if we were selected for the executive searches, so he'll be right here. To my left is Dr. Robert Duran, and Dr. Duran is a former superintendent of your district here in Socorro. We just took a snapshot of his photo on your wall over there, and nothing. It's kind of what the superintendency does to you. And Dr. Duran is a retired superintendent as well, 32 years, most recently in San Antonio, and he has been with TASB for 10 years in a number of different roles with TASB. And so he will also be part of the team. And the reason why I wanted to introduce the team to you is that we were talking and we understand and want you all to know that we understand the importance of understanding El Paso, understanding Socorro, and understanding your culture. And both with Mr. Cervantes here and living in El Paso, Horizon City, as well as Dr. Duran as a former superintendent, we feel like that will be a big benefit for choosing our firm. The other benefit of this is that we are TASB. We are your member association. We have been doing searches for well over 30 years, and this began at the request of school boards to utilize another service of TASB to conduct searches. And so many of you are well aware of our association, our organization. I want to thank Cynthia for her service on the TASB board. Thank you so much. We are representing Region 19. We also want to thank you for the services that you currently use there with us. And so if you don't mind, do I have, here it is, the next slide. And so I've already introduced to the team. The other member of the executive search team is Dr. Marion Strauss, and Dr. Strauss is also a former superintendent. She has been with executive search services for over 10 years, and she's also full-time in our division. And I didn't say about myself, I have 33 years in education, one now with TASB. I just recently retired about a year ago as well. I've been a superintendent in 3 different districts, 24 years as a superintendent, and I've enjoyed my time so far with TASB and really look forward possibly to this opportunity to work with all of you. But what you see there in terms of that particular graph is most recently in December, the Division of Field Services was combined with and merged with the Division of Executive Searches. And so they asked me to lead both divisions, and I couldn't be more excited to do that because of that network. One of the things you gain by choosing TASB is the fact that we have field service representatives like Mr. Cervantes all throughout Texas. So we have folks that have boots on the ground, that are visiting districts, that are in superintendent offices, that are talking about TASB, but now also talking about executive searches and what openings we have, and are a huge benefit to your district when we have one of these searches, not only in the front end of the search, but also during the vetting time as well. When we're looking at candidates, we're looking at those. They are also included as well to help with referencing and finding information about each of your candidates. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. Here's a picture of the team. Again, as I said, all of them have over 30 years plus years. All of them are retired superintendents. But one of the things I wanted to bring your attention is that you do have a dedicated program coordinator, and that is Ms. Joy Rivera. It's the last picture there. Ms. Rivera will be assisting your locally, the person you designate here in the district as our contact person. So Ms. Rivera will be available to you basically 24/7, 7 days a week with questions, being able to communicate through email and phone call, anything you might have here at the board regarding this search. And so she's full-time, also part of the team here at TASB. I've already mentioned about our track record, and we do support and collaborate, of course, with you and our superintendent candidates through all stages of the superintendent search. That is our goal from the very, very beginning to the very, very end, and I'll talk a little bit more about that as well. Our fee is all-inclusive, and so there are a couple of things that may be added expenses. The only thing that we ask of the district is your finalists in that second round. If you bring 2, 3 candidates, we do ask for travel for those candidates, not for TASB folks, but just for your top candidates, not the initial round of interviews, just the second round. And then possibly, which I'll talk about a little bit later, would be contracting with a third party for third-party background checks. And we have a relationship with several different firms that I can talk to you about those. So the superintendent kickoff, after if we do select TASB, is that we then have a planning meeting with you. And we enjoy that opportunity, but it's a time to look at your calendars to see if you are able to meet each of the dates that we set, because this is a very, very important process. As I said before, you hire us, we work for the board, but we also have to meet your busy schedules, because we really do stress that all 7 of you are present for all steps of this along the way, because there's not any other decision that you will make as a board member than the selection of your superintendent. So we do want that. So that planning meeting is very, very critical for all of us, so that we can secure your commitments and your time, so that we can assist you along the way. We also will talk about characteristics and qualities and the process of that as well, so that helps us with our application systems and processes so that we can be, of course, very unique to Socorro and what you specifically are looking for in your candidates. And then finally, at the planning meeting, we'll delve deeper into what type of community staff involvement that you want in this process. We certainly have ideas, but again, we work for you. I want to hear from you as well. What's important to you as a board member for gaining that input from your community along this process for your superintendent? During the search, of course, when you hire a search firm, we are certainly in charge of advertising. We certainly advertise this and statewide. I've already mentioned to you about the work of the field service team, but of course on our traditional channels, we're members of national associations as well, and we get the word out nationally through the National Association of Superintendent Search Firms, as well as, of course, other means through the different, like the Texas Association of School Boards, the other state association of school boards. We certainly promote the position with them as well. As I mentioned, during the application process, we're doing the community survey. We're gaining more information about this profile that you are looking for. And then finally, one of the things maybe other firms might have started to do, but we were one of the first that began a video component of the application. We use a system called VidCruiter. VidCruiter is unique to TASB. Our candidates apply online and begin the process, but one of the things that you have available to you is the opportunity to see and hear about a minute and a half response to several questions, and it just gives you an opportunity to see who these candidates are. That's up to you in terms of the application pool, if you would like us, for example, to look at that and maybe narrow that pool down for you, or if you want to see all candidates. That's something we will talk about in the planning meeting. But again, we work for you, and you decide that, you drive us in that decision making, but all of those candidates would be of access to you. But one of the things that I'm finding when I've been working with boards and searches is how valuable this is. It's just a window into these individuals that you have that firsthand before you decide to make your final decision of what candidate to bring in to interview. So we're really, really pleased with it. During the interviews, we certainly have a meeting that we talk about all the different candidates, as I mentioned to you, where you receive information. We hear from you after you look at the candidates' credentials and the videos and what your thoughts initially are. We also provide you background information of the candidates, information from the field, information from our field service teams to help you along the way. That is a meeting that really you receive board credit for. We're together quite a bit in an executive session in terms of looking at all of the candidates at that time. We also look at and take care of all of the candidate scheduling. Our program VidCruiter can do that. That is a fair process where then we announce that, and the candidates have an opportunity to go through the process and pick the time that they want to interview. And then finally, we highly suggest with your top candidate to consider a site visit. We coordinate that as well. We highly suggest that a contingent of the board, certainly not the quorum of the board, but up to 3 members of the board, maybe pay a visit to a candidate's district to learn more about that candidate. And of course, we're going to have some ideas for you about that along the way, how to conduct that particular site visit. So again, you know this part about naming a lone finalist. You realize there's 21 days that have to occur after the naming of a lone finalist. But one of the things that I hope makes us unique is that we don't just end our relationship with you. Number one, we never end our relationship with you. If you hire us or not tonight, TASB will always support Socorro ISD. But secondly, after the superintendent is hired, generally after 3 months, maybe 4 months, maybe 5, we will still be here to conduct a transition workshop that is part of our services. That could be a part of the team behind me as well. It could be part of our board development team, board services team, and we will come out and we will get input from the superintendent and input from the board, from all of you about that. What topics, what things, ideas, what things would you like to talk further so that you have a positive transition of your new superintendent. And so those are generally very, very positive, gone well. It's just a time to have that because you know how hard it is to schedule meetings. You know how hard it is to schedule these different workshops. Yes, you get board credit, but in addition to that, you have this opportunity to touch base with your superintendent, touch base with one another, what you're thinking, what this transition is like, has his or her transition plan look like in the district, and is a great checkpoint. So we're really excited to offer that to you. These are just some testimonials, and I know a lot of you are looking at the folder there. They're included for you to look at as well. And these are some of our highlights of our districts that we have done most recently. We're certainly proud of Arlington ISD, one of our largest districts that we've conducted the search this year. The board is very positive about our process. The board is very excited about their candidate that they recently hired. I personally most recently completed Church-Cibolo Universal City in the San Antonio area. As you can see, some of the others. And then most recently, Sharyland we have just closed, as well as Corsicana. In the past, you can see some of the other districts that selected within the last couple of years that are similar size to Socorro. I think that's important. Just so you understand, as TASB, we will conduct search for districts as small as 50 kids, that K-12, as well as large as yours, close to 50,000 students, or even larger districts in our state. So that's really important to all of us. But one of the things, and I know with my time, as I'm getting to a close for our presentation, is that when I'll go back to the beginning of the slide presentation, and one of the things that caught my eye when I was just doing a little bit of background information, learning more about your district, is your vision. Tomorrow's leaders learning today. And so again, I can't reiterate the importance of this task that's before you, of hiring your next superintendent, because who else can be the model of this? You have to have a top leader that then can have this type of vision. You have to have a leader that can cast that vision in your district. And we are equipped to do that. We are equipped to bring you candidates that are ready for the challenges that are ahead of Socorro ISD. We have a pool and be able to call on the pool of candidates across Texas. One thing we do not have is already set group of folks that we promote. Our process begins new each and every time we have a search. But we also need to be sure your candidates understand issues facing your district, but also we be the type of person and the type of candidate that is ready to meet that challenge for you. And I think we understand where you are and where you would want to be as a school district, and we're really hopeful that we can help you with that. And then finally, one of the things at the end of the presentation that I got this off your website was simply this team, Socorro ISD Sees Your Opportunity. We want to be a part of your team. I can't say that over and over again. I'd love to be a part of the Socorro ISD team. Again, I have a former superintendent that is very fond of his time in Socorro ISD, and a local resident that would love to work and be a part of the process to help you bring in your next leader. But also, one of the things about seizing the opportunity is your district, from what I've found, has so many unique and innovative programming. So for us as a search firm, we have that behind us to help in that recruiting. Not a lot of districts, for example, have the elementary academies that you have set up. What wonderful opportunities that is for young people to find that academy that meets their needs. I was reading about each one of those. So unique, so different, but again, when we talk about in the legislature about school choice, you have choice. You have choice right here for young families. And then looking at the end, looking at all of the different career and technology programs and for students to seize the day that way, all the opportunities they have in front of them to earn associate's degrees, college credits, as well as all the CTE classes that they can take. You have done an outstanding job by providing those first-class facilities too. So very, very impressive. Again, we would love to seize that opportunity to promote Socorro ISD.
Thank you.
I think my 15 minutes are up. I think
Perfect
I was right
timing.
on time. All right. So how can we answer your questions? We would certainly, Mr. Cervantes and Dr. Duran would be happy to help me as well answer your questions.
So we'll proceed with the question and answers. Ms. Macias?
Dr. Casanes, please teach me. I'm looking at your search timeline.
Yes.
How flexible is that? As I'm sure you all know, we're a year-round district, and our little ones come in, big ones come in beginning of August. And I know that the timeline is set. Is that a flexible timeline? Share what that looks like.
Yes. Thank you for bringing that to your attention. I couldn't go through every single thing in 15 minutes, so I'm glad you brought that to our attention. We just proposed a draft, and absolutely, it's up to you drive the timeline. That's what the planning meeting is all about. So we started with the planning meeting if we are hired tonight or within the next couple of days to come in as soon as we can. That's even flexible, but that we were offering May the 6th. As soon as, though, the district is, the district hires TASB, we start with the recruiting and the promotion of your district. So just understand that. That's out there in the acceptance of applications. We can begin that almost simultaneously and immediately. But I did notice in your calendar that you do have, for example, in July, you have the 4th of July week, and then you have 3 weeks off, and then I've noticed that your teachers were coming back that last week of July, so you got a lot going on as well. And so those are just decisions that you and your search firm decide upon. Do you want the superintendent named before that, soon, or right around that time? I'd have to take your lead on what you would like. But remember, it is a process. We want to have ample time, adequate time to promote your district, to post your district, to recruit candidates, because we also, of course, want to look at candidates that are very successful that may not have thought about this opportunity. And that's our job to think, you need to think about that too. So that does take a little bit of time. But we'll work with you. We'll certainly work with any way that you feel is the most advantage to bring in a new superintendent.
Thank you for your thorough response.
You bet.
Looking at your search history here, the vast majority you have listed here are pretty much under 34,000 student districts. The attendance there, except for Arlington, which you just mentioned, yes, at 49,000. How is that going to affect our pool of candidates for our school district? Because it seems like you've been focused on the smaller districts.
Well, we focus on the smaller ones because they want us to do their searches. We're not going to say, we accept those roles and when they ask us to help them. However, as I mentioned, sir, we begin anew. We have, our pools are fresh each and every time. And so Dr. Duran can talk a little about Arlington. We had a very, very successful process with Arlington. Top candidates for the district, those that made the top to interview as well as their finalists. And so it depends, of course, in terms of our process. It's our relationships that we have and the fact that we are TASB. We are statewide. With our relationships, we are statewide in terms of our name. People know that we conduct searches. And so I think, again, it's a merge. It's that combination, sir, of knowing that they're working with TASB as a candidate, but also that, Socorro ISD is open. So it's both of those things. And so we, again, have our field representatives, as well as myself, have connections of superintendents from all size districts.
So the candidate pool will only be statewide?
Yes, of course. Could even be nationwide, but definitely our expertise is here in the state of Texas. Yes, sir.
So most likely it's going to be a state candidate.
Sure.
Most likely it's going to be a state, somebody from inside the state?
Certainly, but again, that's something we can talk about more fully in your planning meeting, if you're open to more national type searches. We certainly have the ability to do that. We certainly have the ability to vet that way. We certainly have the ability to recruit, certainly have the ability to post positions if you're, for nationwide. We already receive many candidates, particularly from our border states, New Mexico, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, many times for our openings.
SISD is about to go under TEA conservatorship. How's that going to affect your, candidates coming in here? And in your searches, have you dealt with the district that had to go through that too and put a superintendent in that place, in that district?
I'm not going to stay here and say I've worked with the district specifically with the TEA monitoring conservatorship and searching at the same time. We certainly work with a number of challenging districts. A district small can have many challenges that may not be the same as yours, but they may have financial troubles. They may be circling the drain as well. And so, not that you are, but I'm saying other districts may be in financial troubles. They're just different in Socorro versus a smaller district. However, they may also have some personnel issues that they're facing. Maybe they're overstaffed in a small district too. So it doesn't, those kind of things, is every district is unique in their own ways, but often also, though, they're common as well, with common issues, common problems. I mean, we were talking about that we understand Socorro is facing some, budget deficit. We understand you have the conservatorship. There may be governance issues. We understand you lost your superintendent. So there's a lot of things, but What we can do is that to us, that motivates us though to find that person that is ready to run to the challenge. There are many candidates that are successful in their districts and they look for these opportunities. Because again, I think it's, well, what I've seen so far, it's pretty laid out of some of the things that can occur. I do not see it, sir, as a deterrent to the number of applicants you're going to receive. You're in a wonderful location with a wonderful district with facilities and a great past history of success. So it's just a bump in the road and you're going to move forward from this. We're confident.
I just see it as a challenge, and I don't want to lower the standard just because we stayed within the state of Texas.
Oh, certainly. Okay.
Yeah, I want to make sure we get the right person now. We have to do it right this time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's it, sir.
And can you mention about the 2-year guarantee? Can you mention about the 2-year guarantee?
Sure. Our track record has been very positive. 90% of our candidates have been with their district five years. However, in the event, our guarantee is after 2 years, if they're not still, if they've left your district, then of course we would come back and do that search for you again. And so that's our guarantee.
If we were to go with your firm, you mentioned within the 4 to 5 month time period, you all would do a transition workshop.
Yes,
How's that been successful?
To me, though, those are some of the things, that's the first step, a transition workshop. So I'll say very successful. Any candidate, any superintendent new to a district wants that feedback early from their board. They spend the most of their time working with the board members. And you all have spent more time than anyone else in the community with the superintendent because of the interview process and going through that. So it's very, very critical, sir, that you have that first transition workshop. But we highly recommend that you continue that. It could be a component that you look at TASB. You'll notice in your folder I put all of our services that TASB offers. There's a lot of things that we might have possible solutions for you. You mentioned already the governance issue or the TEA conservatorship. I know you're working with TEA, but we also have some solutions for you too. And those can continue to springboard other training, other workshops. Our HR division does a fantastic job with staffing patterns, staffing market studies. Our Student Solutions Special Education Department does a great job monitoring and looking at individual ARDs and IEPs and looking if you're appropriately staffed in special education. Looks at SHARs, it's called the Federal Medicaid, so reimbursement type of dollars, things like that. So we have some ideas, we have some solutions. We know there are a lot out there also that you may want to utilize. But one of the things we can do after that first transition workshop is see then how you're progressing with your monitorship, your conservatorship, with your needs assessment that I know that you're doing, as well as your action plan, and then see how we dovetail into that to be able to continue to provide that support for you.
One thing that I heard that I really liked was site visit to a candidate's district. So what does that look like?
Sure. So that's, again, part of your timeline. And at our planning meeting, we take that in consideration because many times after you interview, you're in the second round, you're finalists, you're really excited to run and name that lone finalist. But this gives an opportunity just to pause a minute and schedule a site visit. And the candidates understand that. The top candidates know that they have to assist us. So we work with them about telling them this may occur. So they work where you might talk with the current board members of that district. You may talk to administrators, teachers of that district, parents of the district. We highly suggest and want maybe just places you stop to have lunch, things like that, to learn more about the culture, things of that nature, how people feel about the superintendent in their community. So those are types of the things. But we do work with the candidate to help us arrange those. But it's arranged, but also some I call free time as well, so you can be in the community.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. For a district our size, what would you all, in your opinion, what would you say is an acceptable pool of candidates, number-wise?
Do you remember Arlington? I would say between 20 and 30, 25 to 30.
20 and 30.
Yes. The candidates. And so one of the things, too, when we have the meeting, you remembered when we talked through the vetting and the different candidates, we do help organize that for you. We help organize saying these are sitting soups. These are deputy, top cabinet level candidates. These are assistant soups. These are then directors in districts, things like that too. So we kind of help you through that. But we certainly have seen on average about that pool of candidates, around 25 to 30.
Could you, so of course, community engagement is important. And could you elaborate a little on what the community engagement process with TASB would be? Would there be, public meetings to encourage feedback and input from the community?
Yeah. Yes, sir. One of the things, again, I'm glad you are asking that question, sir, was just to be respectful of the fact that I do know with your TEA monitorship that you do have a needs assessment occurring at this district. So I would want to delve into that. I would want to learn more about what are you already asking the community needs, how is it going, what type of information you're gathering. That's number one. So we don't be repetitive, because what's worst thing you can do is over survey, over ask your community. Number two, though, to your point, sir, is that we could look at that, and again, in our planning meeting, is decide what type of forums would you like. And again, they ebb and flow in terms of the time. During COVID, they were more online. We certainly can do an online presence of people to give feedback, but we also can do community. We certainly recommend community forums at different times of the day, maybe around lunch, maybe around dinner time, just because it's people's schedules for us to visit with them. We also recommend staff forums, numerous ones, so that we can hear from your teachers and staff at the elementary level, the secondary level, of course the cabinet level as well, principal level, things like that. So we would love to do and offer that to you. And then even meeting one-on-one with you as board members, where you are in the district, what feedback you have. I know Dr. Duran did that in Arlington Independent School District. It was very successful. We can do that in person, or we can do that through Zoom or Teams, things like that, just so we can hear from you just individually about the district and get your input and feedback as well. And then we can help put that together for you. What that feedback does in our process, it certainly helps inform you when you're looking at the candidate pool. It certainly helps inform you design your interview. It helps design what type of questions that you may probe into, may ask the first round, and it helps design that second round. So it's really rich, important information through that. Again, we have a lot of different ideas and things that we can do, but at our planning meeting, I keep going back to that, I want to hear from you what you would expect and what groups, and I want to hear, is there certain other community groups we need to call on? Is there certain civic clubs or retirement clubs or groups and things like that other stakeholders of the district, the councils, the PTAs, things like that?
If I was a candidate and I was on the fence about applying because it means I'm moving to El Paso, the conservatorship, the budget situation, what would you tell me to convince me that Socorro is the right place?
First and foremost, I think I would show that is that your district is working hard so that your students sees all their opportunities. You just feel it and you just see it from your written work, pictures, stories you promote on your website. That's a window into what you're doing. But then visiting the district, since I've been here since yesterday, things like that, to seeing it as well. So I think that is the thing, is knowing that the district has had very positive, careful planning in the past. I would convince them. I would also tell them to look. I was reading this afternoon your strategic plan. You go through processes like that. You have priorities set. That's very, to me, advantageous to a candidate, to know that the district has set priorities. You may be on hold on some of those right now just because of where you are, but that doesn't mean you're not going to pick them back up again in the future. So that's also very, very critical. The other thing to say is that, I don't know if y'all are keeping up across the state of Texas, but many districts are facing budget constraints. That is a common problem. I don't want to minimize it here in your district at all, but it is a common problem, a statewide issue that we all have to get around as educators with our legislators.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your presentation and your willingness to participate.
You bet. Thank you for the opportunity. It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, so since we move forward initially with the presentations then. The next item is 7A, discussion and possible action to select and engage a superintendent search firm to assist the district with recruitment and selection of candidates to be considered for superintendent of schools.
Mr. Nahida, if I may, since I do serve as on the board of TASB, it would be inappropriate for me to partake in the discussion and/or vote, so I will be abstaining.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Nahida. So for the rest of us, I have what I believe is a simple approach to ranking, but willing to listen to anyone who has any ideas on how we go about the process. So I was thinking very simply, we had 4 presenters. Each of us score them in ranking order, so we can go by one. I'd be willing to start so that my ranking order is first, and then we can just go, you know, left or right, or volunteers, et cetera, to get the ranking order. If you so choose, you can provide some insight into why you ranked as you did. Of course, first choice is your first preference. If the decision was up to you, your number 1 would be the firm that we choose. After everybody goes, I tally it up, and because of, you know, our preference being number 1, the firm with the lowest score then is the one that is in the lead and would be considered for selection. Does that make sense to everybody? Any questions? No? All right. So I'll go first, and for me, it was very simple. My ranking is in the reverse order of the presentation. So Alma was number 4, McPherson was number 3, O'Hanlon was number 2, and TASB was number 1. Very simply, Alma is way out of state. They don't have very many searches here in the state. They're also the most expensive. And so that gave me some reservations. Whereas TASB is a local organization, local to the state. They provide all sorts of education for school boards, for school districts. They provide all sorts of support for school districts and superintendents as well. They are well connected throughout the state with districts. Therefore, when people apply, when any candidate applies, I feel like they would be able to not only do the, of course, legal or any of the other background checks necessary, but the references, they've got the connections. They also mentioned that they could go nationwide. Of course, TASB has connections to the National School Board Association, I'm sure other associations. If we so choose to move forward, they said they would go nationally as well. And of course, price point, was important to me. And lastly, in many previous superintendent searches, we've gone with other search firms, not selected TASB. And, TASB has been one of my personal front runners every single time. And I'm just ready, to go with an organization who is committed to education in our state and to our districts. So that's why for me, TASB is number 1. With that then, I'll ask for volunteers if anyone wants to go next.
Go next. I too have TASB as number 1. I have McPherson as number 2, O'Hanlon 3, and Alma 4. Echoed many of the things that you said. I liked their presentation. It was very thorough. I valued the timeline and truly the transparency of us being able to go on site to get information. That was very key to me. People could present very well, but their day-to-day is truly what should shine. So having the ability, and yes, it is organized by them, But once you are there, you truly get a feel of their work, because people are human and they truly want best for students. So that was my deciding factor. I do value, the other piece that really stood out was the fact that they have resources. I like the learning opportunities, the teaming opportunities that they also offer, and that transition plan as we move forward with our next leader.
Sounds good. Yes.
My ranking was TASB number 1, Ohanen number 2, McPherson 3, and Alma Advisory Group number 4. The reason for TASB standing out was obviously no brainer, and the price was one of them. But the other factor is Ruben Cervantes lives in El Paso, so he knows the community very well. Dr. Duron used to be our superintendent here in Socorro, very successful, knows the district very well. They have a 2-year guarantee. I like the idea about the transition workshop within 4 to 5 months. Site visits. I think that was very important, the site visits, where we could go down to the site visits. They come over here as well. But then being from El Paso, I think that's a huge asterisk.
I'll follow Mr. Guerra. My number 1 was also TASB. My number 2 was McPherson. Number 3, O'Hanlon. And number 4 was Alma. 2, of course, the price is one, but more importantly, they're very well versed in our situation. It's not something that they have to learn in order to help us become better and reach the goal that we have for our district. They know our community, and that to me is vital in the hiring of our superintendent. They need to understand our community, our families, our children. The needs of our community are vital to me, and I think that's something that we definitely need to put as a priority.
I chose McPherson as 1, O'Hanlon 2, TASB 3, and Alma 4. I chose McPherson because they seems to be the most versed in hiring executives for the school district. They did hire for some of the bigger districts out there across the nation. They have a nationwide pool of superintendents to address our issue, and we're just not picking from the standard superintendent here in Texas. You know, the last time we went for a superintendent search, I did ask we look outside because we need fresh ideas out here. We need to not stay stagnant and say Texas, Texas, Texas is always right. We have problems here and we need a new direction. And that's why I feel McPherson. They can also go Texas too, they said. But I think a nationwide search is important to allow us to get the full spectrum of what's out there and not just stay blinded with just Texas.
Alma was number 4, McPherson was number 1, O'Hanlon was number 3, and TASB was number 2. Just McPherson obviously has a national or a plethora and the experience that they have over the years with national, superintendents that we can reach out and, O'Hanlon and TASB is just more Texas, and I just don't want to just stay here in Texas and I want to open our minds a little bit more and see what's out there nationally than just here in Texas. So for me, that's why McPherson was number 1.
One thing that I could share that I like that you all are saying and that I heard from TASB is that they are willing and they do have the resources to go national. So I think that's something that we have to ensure that occurs if we move forward with them.
Okay, so that was everybody with the lowest ranking, of course, or being the biggest number of 4, the highest ranking, smallest number being a 1. There's 7 of us, so the lowest score would be 7, the highest 28. Ms. Nahid abstained. That means that it's only 6. So the range is actually from 6 to 24. Okay. So the ranking, as far as points go, was Alma last with 24. O'Hanlon then in third with 15. McPherson in second with 12. And Tasby in the lead with 9. Anybody need me to repeat that? So based on the scoring, it would appear that the request, the recommendation would be for us to move forward with TASB.
I'd like to make a motion to select Texas Association of School Board Executive Search Services for our next search firm.
I second.
A motion made by Mr. Guerra, seconded by Ms. Macias. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I abstain.
And the item passes. Congratulations to TASB. All right. I'll return to the regular agenda. Item number 4, Board of Trustee business. Discussion and possible action regarding the declaration of the final version of forensic audit reports number 2 and 3. That's the findings and recommendations prepared by Weaver and Tidwell. If y'all recall, on March 25th, we had the formal presentation given to us by Weaver and Tidwell for reports number 2 and 3 by Mr. Kasner. At that point, the reports had not been finalized, but between now and then they have been presented to us as final by Weaver and Tidwell. They're asking that we accept those as final. Of course, our acceptance then becomes formal, and then those will be published to our website to be made available. So the action is to declare the final version of forensic audit reports number 2 and 3 from Weaver and Tidwell.
Approve.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Barrera, seconded by Mr. Castellano. Any further discussion? All
Can
those in-
we, just one thing, it's hard for people to find the first external audit. Can we put a link on the page, the front page of the school site, so they can find it and not have to go through 3 links to get to it?
If you'd like that, we can make that
I mean, I
happen.
think we'd be
Yes.
transparent and not, let's call it.
Yes, we can make that happen.
Yeah. And the TA investigation, was that already put?
That's posted already. The
Okay,
TEA,
Good evening, President Nakara, members of the board, Mr. Vasquez. Yes, it has been posted. However, we are having the exhibits reviewed since there are student records, just to make sure that all the information can be posted publicly.
Yes, I thought it was already redacted, but yes.
We're just having it reviewed. But the audit itself, 30 some odd pages, has been posted.
Okay, just to make it easier for the public to find, and that's it.
absolutely.
Okay, so motion by Mr. Barrera, seconded by Mr. Castellano. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes. Okay, moving on then to the budget workshop. We're gonna go with, there's 2 presentations. There's a presentation for the health fund and plans, and then there's a presentation for revenue estimates and preliminary budget. We're gonna go first with the fiscal year 2024-25 revenue estimates and preliminary budget. Ms. Bettis, please.
Yes, sir. Good evening, President Nahara, members of the board. My name is Vicky Perez, Chief Financial Officer. This evening, we'll be discussing the budget workshop. Please keep in mind that these are preliminary numbers. This is the very first part of working with the budget, so these numbers are not final, and they are still being reviewed and worked and massaged so that we are presenting a complete budget in June regular board meeting, excuse me. So the budget activities that we have completed so far is we have done the department and campus budget reviews. We have done staffing reviews. We've reviewed the request for additional funds, and we have reviewed budget reductions, and we have compiled the preliminary budget amounts. The budget book that was emailed last night is a PDF copy of what you currently have in front of you, I believe, right? So a couple of economic conditions as of right now. Inflation rates at 2022 were 8.8. They have since declined, and we're looking at a forecast of 1.9% on inflation rates. Our interest rates were at 4.1 in 2022. Our 2025 forecasted interest rate is at 5.5, and that's been very evident as part of our investment transactions and our investment reports. The cost of services and supplies are still increasing due to COVID, and the current cost of oil is $87 a barrel compared to $72 last year at this time. And the reason I mention that is because that is a big part of how we. Did you need something, sir? You're okay? Okay.
Go ahead and continue.
Okay. So that's the oil prices are a big part of how the state funds our school districts. This is our state funding assumption, and this is as of April 2024. Our enrollment was 47,332 students. We project approximately negative 7.58 decrease into the next year, and this lines up with what our demographic study shows as well. So the average daily attendance currently is 94.19, and I'm anticipating a 0.5 increase, and that is a very conservative number compared to what we had from last year to this year. This year we did have about a 1%, and while I'd love to be optimistic about it, I also need to be realistic about and conservative about what our numbers look like in the next year. So currently the number we are working with for a projected ADA is 44,480. And as you know, we are paid off of ADA and not enrollment. Last year, just to recap, we did have our number projected at 45,997, and that was based off of 48,000 students with a 1.6 increase. That was off, apparently. So we are gonna go back and project it with a negative amount of enrollment, excuse me. Our Tier 1 funding, this is our basic allotment. It is currently at $6,160, and that includes weights on top of the basic allotment, which we get for early education, CCMR, dyslexia, school safety, transportation, special ed, bilingual, etc. And I do want to note that this number has not changed since 2019 when House Bill 3 passed. That was during the 86 legislation. And before that, we had not had a finance reform in over 20 years. So the last time that something was proposed from the state was in November 2023, and they were proposing a $6,700 amount per pupil. Unfortunately, those were tied to vouchers, and it became more of a political situation, and so those did not pass. While we were hoping for an increase, it did not come to fruition. And so a couple of other things, just as a reminder from last year, they were also talking about enrollment versus attendance, school safety, which we did get per campus. They talked about increasing basic allotment, increasing bilingual allotment, and then they tacked on the vouchers. So our projected Tier 1 funding is based off of the 44,480 students of ADA, and these are projected amounts. And these are for each of the special programs that you see listed. And I do want to make sure that you look towards the bottom where it says less local fund assignment. This is where TEA is going to say, okay, you get this much in taxes. This is how much you should get from the state, but it exceeds. So we're going to reduce it, and that's where they equalize the state and our property taxes. And we'll talk about property taxes, property values here shortly. So if we did not have, in basic terms, if we did not have such a huge tax base here, we would be getting 500 million and not the 363. And again, these are estimates. Property values have increased from 10.8 billion in 2021 to an initial preliminary amount of 17.1 billion. And so this goes back to where the maximum compressed rate comes into play. And the state is going to look at what everybody's amounts are and make sure that we are all within 10 points from each other. So that does not come out until August. And it's going to come out towards the beginning of August. And we will have future discussions on what those tax rates look like. I would like to discuss that at our next meeting in early May. But as of right now, this is just informational. We will adopt tax rates at what we currently have, and then come August, after we've received our final values, which come out on July 25th, and our final maximum compressed rate, which is in the first week of August, then we will adopt accordingly. So the 17.1 million, I also want to note that this year, that one of the things that's different is that 3.1 of that is $100,000 homestead exemption amounts. So that comes off of the total property values whenever we start working what the revenue is from our properties. Enrollment versus ADA. As you know, enrollment is how many we have. ADA is how many have been counted, present, and we are paid for. So this is just a historical view of what we have had projected at budget time and what we are planning our budgets with. So enrollment was increasing up until last year, and this year we are planning with the 47,332 with an ADA of 44,480. On the next slide, we have revenues. And again, this is what we have planned with. This was our budget amount. So in 2020, 2021, we were looking at, and I'm just looking at the M&O. As I said, on our next meeting, we'll go over the INS, which is our debt service. On the M&O side, we were at 443.5. And we did have an increase last year, an anticipated increase with the anticipated increase in students. And then this year we are anticipating 462.6 million. So I want to show you what that looks like overall. Of those amounts, 70% is state revenue, 26% is tax collections. And state revenue, that's the one that we just talked about from our TEA. Tax collections, those are our local funds. 3% is from federal revenue, and that is SHARS, Medicaid, those reimbursement amounts, impact aid. Those are, another big part of that is a TRS on behalf that is paid towards our TRS. That is a wash because the state gives us that and we give it to the employees. And then the last part is local revenue. That's rent, cell tower, extracurricular activities, the stuff that we have here locally. Historically, our expenditures, and I'm showing this with the fund balance that we used to supplement the budget. In 2021, we were at 450.5 million. Last year, with our proposed increases, we were at 517.4 million with a 33.2 fund balance. We have decreased our expenditures down to $503.6 million. And so we will go into what that looks like overall. So revenues are 462.6, expenditures are 503.6, so we are looking at a fund balance deficit today projected with preliminary numbers at 41 million. However, there are potential reductions in this deficit that we're still working through, including some recommendations from HR. At this time, I am going to turn it over to HR. Are there any questions that you have before I do?
Yes, Ms. Pettis, this 41 million, this does not include this year's deficit also as well?
The deficits are from one year to another, sir. So this is independent of our current year. Once we see what that looks like, I do anticipate that it will be lower because we did not have every single one of our employees staffed. We did do a little bit of cutting this year as much as we possibly could. So no, in short answer, no, this does not include the deficit that we're currently going through right now.
And I know that you're being extra conservative. Just questions that I have. For example, SHARS. I know that previously you had mentioned that because of a program that we put in place, our SHARS should have gone up, which is revenue. Is that correct?
So we did get a program that does help our SHARS maximize. One caveat to that was that every school district suffered from the Health Commission, Texas Health Commission, coming up with their own calculations of how things should be done, and so that reduced everybody's SHARS reimbursement. We did do an appeal. We did show them back up that we are doing exactly what you told us to do. That is still at the state level, and there hasn't been a final submitted as of yet. So with that in mind, we are still above what we normally would have gotten if we did not have them. So we are still on the black side of that part. And I don't have the exact number just because our final has not come in just yet.
It just shows a huge deficit within this that you
Yes.
provided. So I just wanted to go on record to make sure,
Yes.
to see, why.
Right, it was the Health and Human Services Commission that has made that change in how the calculations are done, not just with that program, but the overall SHARS program itself. But that is something that our provider is working on, and we have, like I said, we've protested it, we've appealed it, and we've provided all kinds of documentation to show that that it's correct.
The other part of the revenue was the Foundation School Program.
Yes.
So please share with me or teach me $23 million reduction. Why?
Do you have a specific page on that one? Oh, I'm sorry. That's the state funding. The Foundation School Program is based off of how many students we have. So since our enrollment has dropped, our ADA is going to drop too. And for every student that we have, that's $6,160. So we're looking at way more than, I think it's 4 million, 5 million on just basic allotment. There are still other factors in that as far as all the weighted averages on the special populations. So
Yeah, so if you could go to this slide that says enrollment in ADA.
yes, ma'am.
This shows an increase in enrollment from 22-23 to 23-24, and then it shows almost 1,500 students lost projection for 24-25.
Yes, so in 22-23, when we did the projections for 23-24, I did a trend analysis on what the last few years looked like, did an average based on that, and I believe it was 1.6% that I anticipated we would have as of the end of the fiscal year or the school year. And so that times the attendance rate, which was 94.12 at the time, is where we get the 45,997.
So these are not, I'm sorry to cut you off, these are not actual, these are projections then that you did to actually create the fund or create
Correct.
the, okay.
So apples to apples, these are the numbers that I used and were used before me for projecting ADA and the budget overall.
And just a recommendation, I would just recommend that you actually put the actual, because that way visually we could see
Okay.
what projected was and what the actual, that way it doesn't look like you're projecting 1,500 less students from one year to, which you are, but why?
Okay, understood.
Thank you. Those are the questions I had.
Can you go back to the last slide?
Yes, sir.
Right there.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that the deficit fund balance does not include the current deficit we're in right now?
Correct.
And how much is that right now?
Based on the budget, it's 33 million.
33 million. And this would be added to that as a deficit?
If we did realize a total deficit of 33 over the entirety of the year, yes.
So we would be projected at 41 million? Or does that amount add to the 33?
It would add to the 33 if we, in fact, did go in 33 million beyond whatever our revenues are. Again, we don't know that as of this point, but in looking at what the finances were reported For the April Finance Committee, I believe in general fund alone, it was 117 million fund balance compared to 150 million the year before. So you can see that there is a difference from one year to another. And those numbers do not include everything. It's not all encompassing. It is only local fund.
Okay. And fund balance, what are required by state or actually by policy to maintain?
I'm sorry, what was that, sir?
On fund balance, when our policy required, how many days of?
Our policy requires 75 days. TEA and everybody else is 60 days.
And where are we at right now?
So I don't have the amount of days, but this, as of April, we're at 115 million. So that's well above the 60 days, but that's not including all of the rest of the expenditures and the accrued paid wages that belong into this current fiscal year. So and utilities as well as TEA payments that we would be receiving. So that's a calculation that comes towards the end after all of those have been realized.
The end would be what, June, July, what?
July. It would be July because July we do still get a payment from TEA.
So we would have a final number in July of this year of where we're at.
More or less, yes. It would not be a final number. Only the auditors have the final number after they've done all of their closing entries.
Okay.
But we can get an estimate of what the fund balance is going to look like, sir. At this point, we can estimate pretty closely what that will look like since we are closer to the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Questions?
Okay,
Ms.
then I'll turn
Pettis.
it over. Yes, sir.
Looking at this last slide, so that projected expenditures, 503 and just a $500,000 there to make it easy. We had discussions that we would, that there was an effort to evaluate all budgets and cut about 10%. So that 503 million has already incorporated that approach?
Yes, sir. So the current expenditures are at 517.4, including everything that we've added on there. And so the district has looked at what we can cut, look at different initiatives on how to move that needle down just a little bit. And so we have cut 14 million as of right now.
Okay.
The really bad part of it is that we don't have the students that we had last year at this time. And that's where the reduction in revenues and the gap in that fund balance comes from.
Thank you.
At this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Gonzalez.
Right, Dr. Gonzalez is presenting 2024-2025 Health Fund and Plans and Compensation Plan. Dr. Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mr. Nájera, Board President, members of the board. Mr. Vasquez, as part of today's budget workshop, we are presenting proposed recommendations for the 2024-2025 school year in the areas of Health Fund, Health Plans by Mario Carmona, Director of Benefits, and proposed recommendations on the compensation plan by Selena Stiles, Director of Personnel overseeing compensation. So at this time, I'm going to have Selena. She's going to start with the compensation plan proposed recommendations for next year.
Hello, good evening, President Nájera, Mr. Vasquez, members of the board. Selena Stiles, Director of Human Resources for Support Personnel. And this evening, as Dr. Gonzalez mentioned, I will be going through administration's compensation plan recommendations. So some of the items that we'll be reviewing is some of the current staffing strategies that we have in practice, some salary schedule recommendations, and then the overall compensation plan recommendations. Currently, as a department, as a district,
we practice absorbing excess teachers into vacancies. So as we go through our annual staffing processes, where there are excess teachers, we move them into vacancies to not excess those teachers out of the district. We will continue to follow EEB staffing guidelines, where we are also going to not allow any staffing above EEB recommendations. And then we're going to continue to close excess positions through attrition. So we will review positions that are vacated through resignations, retirements, to determine the need for those replacements. So those are practices that we currently have in place. We will continue to do so. And again, that's just us doing our due diligence through staffing in our FTEs, just to avoid being overstaffed. One of the other things we're currently researching is a substitute program. Through this program, the idea is to lower the cost and expenses with the substitute program. It would probably be a third party where the substitute program would be outsourced. So separate from the monetary value that the substitute program has, there's the administrative and the resources that are also being used. Through the substitute program, there's a lot of employee relations resources that are used, a lot of payroll and HR resources that are used, and then of course they currently are under Ms. Herrera, which is elementary staffing, so it doesn't really correlate with what she oversees. So that's really the goal. Again, just our effort to kind of look to see if there's an opportunity to have some cost avoidance there. So last year, if you all recall, we did a TASB salary maintenance study, and TASB had some recommendations for us on pay ranges and so forth. We are recommending to go to the salary schedules that TASB recommended during the 22-23 salary maintenance study. That would bring our minimum wage to $11 an hour. That would apply for new hires only. Current employees' rates would not be affected by that. That would just be for new hires. The pay scales and placement schedules would also be adjusted accordingly based on those TASB recommendations. And again, I want to reiterate, current employees would not be impacted by this. They would be held harmless in their current positions, and it would be during the time that they're in that position, okay? So some of the pay scale changes that would be impacted is, if you look at the current, that's in green, the minimum is currently $15 an hour. The recommended for the same pay scales is in the blue area. Okay, so those would be the hiring rates for new hires. The same is true for this pay family. This pay family as well. And this pay family as well. And then in this particular case, I did have to get a little bit more specific because these are positions that are non-scheduled or not part of a pay family. And those also went to $15 an hour. A lot of these positions were actually at $7.25 at the federal minimum wage, and they jumped up to $15 an hour. So again, current employees won't be impacted, but for new hires, we would move that to the $11 an hour. So what does that look like? What would be the purpose of that, right? So we kind of took a sample of employees that were hired for the 22-23 school year. And in that sample, there was 438 employees. And had we adopted TASB's recommended pay schedule at the rates that I just presented, there would have been a cost avoidance of $1.5 million. So the idea is to bring into the new employees at these rates to help kind of lower that, some of that cost. I'm gonna move into the teacher salary schedule. So this is our current teacher salary schedule in comparison with Isleta, El Paso, and Clint ISD. Currently, as you can see, we are the highest paid district across the board. And this would be the proposed teacher salary schedule comparison without taking the step into consideration. And I say that because, and again, I don't know what Isleta, El Paso, and Clint are proposing. I've heard through the grapevine different things. I think we would be safe as far as maintaining our status of being where we are as far as pay, based on what I've heard. But without taking the step into consideration, you kind of freeze the scale. So what is currently step 4, by law, we have to give teachers their step, but we don't have to give a monetary increase with it. So what is currently step 4 becomes step 5. So basically, the salary doesn't change, okay? At this point, administration is not recommending a salary increase for employees for the 24-25 school year. And administration is not recommending a one-time lump sum payment, a retention payment for employees for the 24-25 school year. Any questions?
Questions?
You had a slide about the substitutes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, some of the proposals you're making would affect our substitute student ratio. We're already at the highest ratio according to the external audit of the 20 schools that he compared it to. How do you anticipate that's going to affect? How do you project? Are we going to have more substitutes because teachers are leaving to another district? And now you're going to come up with the health fund is next. What do you project?
So at this point, sir, we have about 1,500 subs. Our fill rate is at about 97%. So the only thing we can do is prepare. I can't project, one thing is I can't project who's leaving, and just like I can't project employees that go out on FMLA or anything like that. A lot of those things are unpredictable. I understand that employees have, I'm assuming you're insinuating employees will leave because of the recommendations that are being made.
Yes.
But in looking at our neighboring districts, for example, and I'm speaking prematurely based on information I've been told, not anything that's been approved by their boards or anything. It's my understanding Isleta's not going to give a pay increase. It's my understanding Canutillo's not going to give a pay increase. So the teacher pay scales are going to maintain that level of competitiveness.
But we're going to take it out of their health care.
Well, I'm not
I know, that's
discussing
why
that
it's
portion
all
of
tied
the,
together. Okay, and I'll hold it for the next one. You said you're eliminating positions through attrition.
and we do that currently, sir. If a position is accessed at a campus due to a decrease in enrollment, when an employee resigns, that position is not replaced.
When does it get to the point where, because the budget she mentioned, you know, is a substantial deficit. When do we get to the point where we say we can't wait for attrition, and we have to eliminate the positions in order to keep the district running properly?
So administration doesn't make that call, sir. That would be a RIF, and that requires board approval.
Yes. So when does that
Reduction in force.
start getting to that point? When do you flag that and say, you know what, we have a concern here that, you know, maybe we need to look harder at these positions and not wait for the attrition to kick in. You know, who knows when that time will be. It's just something you kick the can down the road with that.
As I mentioned, sir, if that's action that the board would like to take and discuss, that requires board action, and that's by policy.
Well, I think it was a comprehensive financial plan that Michael asked for, and I think that should be included, should be part of it to understand the totality of everything that's going on here. You propose dropping the minimum from $15 to $11 an hour. When does it get the price elasticity come in where people are just not going to apply at $11 an hour? Like you said, it was $7.25 was the minimum wage. Nobody's going to survive on that. You know, not even a high school student wouldn't waste his time on that. You know, would people apply for that position? Have we thought about that? Have we even looked into that?
Absolutely, sir. So this is based on TASB's recommendation, which is based on market value.
Well,
So we're
I'm
still
thinking- I'm
within
sorry,
our
go.
market value.
I'm talking real world, not market value. When will people just stop and say, you know what, it's not worth it, $11 an hour when I can, there's places out there that pay the 15, and that's where I'm getting at, where you're gonna say, I can still fill, 428 employee positions at $11 an hour. Are we kidding ourselves on that? Are we fully thinking that through?
Honestly, sir, this is our recommendation. We're trying to bring something forward that's fiscally responsible. Ultimately, again, this is just a presentation. There's no action taken, and you all will make that decision.
Some clarification, when you said step, the step increase is there, but it's not monetary. What is that?
Right. So when I say it's not inclusive of the step, there is not a monetary step included. So if we include the step in the pay schedule, it will remain as is currently. The person that's currently at 4 goes to 5. Whatever the current step 5 is, it goes to the 61,250. Without the step, it goes to 61,100 because the current step 4 is 61,100. So that person moving to step 5 will take that same salary with them. And the cost to include that is $1.2 million.
Okay.
Styles, in regards to the outsourced substitutes, how much money would we be saving if we outsource?
So currently, we're projected to spend about $9 million on our substitute program. And again, that's just the monetary value attached to it. That's not including the resources that are attached to that. With those programs, you can propose and say, we want you to outsource and deal with our substitute program, and we're going to tell you you have to do it within a $2 million budget, a $3 million budget. So it depends on what the needs are and how we work with those organizations to help us meet our needs. But they do the recruiting, they basically take over everything. In fact, some of them even offer benefits to the substitutes. So it's just depends.
Are there, I'm sorry.
In regards to the, the step up, that's just for teachers only, not the rest of the employees, correct?
That includes teachers, nurses, librarians, and counselors only. Yes, sir.
What would it cost all the employees? I just wondered if you had some numbers. I was just kind of curious because I wouldn't like to leave anybody out, but I'm just curious, what would be the deficit or how much we're looking at for all employees?
As far as how much of an increase, it just varies.
Would there be a TASB, is there a TASB study as far as rest of the employees?
We did not contract TASB this year just because of kind of the situation we were in, but we can do projections based on the current scales and what that looks like.
And I know I spoke to you, what are we looking at for the employees that are not getting a step up? We do a one-time stipend, say of $250 monetarily. What are we looking at going out there that dollar-wise?
So we had an idea that maybe that might be asked. So we have at 250, it would cost 1.4 million. $500 would cost 2.8 million. 750 would be 4.2 million. And 1,000 would be 5.6 million. But at these rates, we would also ask that they are for qualified, full-time, or what is it proper term? Permanent employees.
This would not include the teachers.
Yes, that includes the teachers.
So the teachers and everybody else will get the step up, correct? If the board decides to go that route.
If
How
the
much
board
we're looking
approves
at just for, I don't know if you can give me those numbers right now, and I don't want to put you on the spot, just a $500 stipend to the employees that are not getting a step up and raise.
Oh, gosh, I don't
In other
know.
words,
I
the
think we included everybody. I don't think we excluded teachers.
Because the 250 was $1.4 million, so it'll be a lot less than that.
Correct, but we can look into that.
Mr. Guerra, would you clarify what the request was? Because you said 250 and then 500.
No, I like the idea about the step-up increase to the teachers, but I don't want to leave out any employees. But I know where we're at right now, where we stand. So I'd like to see what we're looking at as maybe a 250 stipend for the regular employees, not the teachers. Everybody's going to get the step-up, and the $500 also as well. Both of them are possible.
Okay.
Okay. So the teachers, the step, which we know is 1.2 million, and then 250 for everybody else.
250 and 500, just see what the
And
difference is.
500, okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
My question was, Ms. Stiles, are there any districts in our area that are currently outsourcing the substitutes?
Locally, we would be the first. I do know, for example, in Region 1, and I'll let Dr. Gonzalez share that.
Yes, I can share that, Ms. Gardea. And for example, in Region 1 have the substitute program. So the districts get the services from Region 1 to hire substitute program. And they train them, they certify them, they take care of the benefits, even disciplinary action, grievances, everything. And then we just need to pay the payroll. So that helps a lot. So the culture is the same. They're going to have everything that they need, but it's just like we did with the retention of records. We hire a third-party company and alleviate. When before the COVID, the district was, and what I remember, I researched spending around $3 million on substitute program. With COVID, it just went super high, and last year was 7 million, and now is almost $9 million. And yes, it was a lot also, and providing them, because the board want that generosity and included in the stipends or included in increases, salaries and all that, because the lack of teachers, because the COVID, so it was a lot of crisis there. And I was asking here around the area, I asked Region 19, they don't have that. But there are companies that do that statewide, and it's very, very common in other districts and in other regions. And it may be something that we can explore and look for cost avoidance and look for that option. We just want to look if it's something that it will help us with the cost avoidance. But it exists.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Macias?
And I know that for this outsourcing, it's very preliminary, but in your research, will it impact jobs of current employees?
So my understanding through the research is current substitutes would be transitioned to that program. So, and I'll give you an example of one of them that we spoke to. They offer benefits. We don't offer benefits. They offer different incentives. They have different recruiting methods and so forth that we don't have. So that's kind of how that would work. That's my understanding. But again, everything's very preliminary.
And what about the employees that currently oversee that program that are full-time equivalents
So
currently?
we really don't have like a full team handling that, but those individuals, they would just be resourced to different areas, repurposed.
But we don't have a staff in charge of substitute program. Actually, it's embedded on Ms. Herrera department, and for that group of people is a load of work because it's extra. So they are in charge of all the elementary schools, it's elementary staffing, and on top of that, as the job description say, like everything is included and other duties required, they just do also substitute. And it happened the same with the finance department with payroll. So it's on top of that. So it will be great if we have because it's 1,500 substitutes, it's almost like more employees than in a small district. So it's a whole, and we're proud of that. We like it. We have a good program, but it's just a way to look for cost avoidance.
As you move forward, that's my recommendation. Make sure that it's all inclusive, that we're getting that information so that there's no angst from anybody that they're going to be losing their job, because we're outsourcing is a bad word sometimes.
Yes, no, and they, actually, they apply with them, and they employees with them. That's the idea. But
Thank you.
yes, we still like looking into that.
Thank you. And then one other question on that same slide, number 3. It says, follow EEB staffing guidelines, no staffing adjustments above the EE recommendations. So the way that I read that statement is that that's current practice.
Yes, I want to just emphasize that the 3 bullets on the top are not recommendations, are practices that are part of the policy, and we are doing that. We, as an HR function, we constantly absorb excessive teachers. We constantly review staffing and look the EEB formulas, right? We constantly, attrition is normal. Like we just, okay, someone is gonna resign, someone is gonna retire. Do we still not need that position? We evaluate, that is not a recommendation. We're just sharing that our current strategies, that what we wanna do is just to share that we're gonna continue doing that and really enforce. Sometimes we have exceptions when a school need an extra counselor, or a school need an extra AP for certain reasons. We're gonna go just more in depth and revise those decisions of exceptions, and just to clean out a little bit the formulas. But it's not new, Ms. Macias, it's something that is part of the HR function.
The questions?
One more. What other programs can be outsourced by the district where we can save money?
With respect to HR and staffing?
With respect to anything in the district, we have to look at everything, you know. We can outsource our teachers, but what else and to me, that's the most critical role, but we're outsourcing it. What else can we outsource that we can save money?
And we can get with Mr. Vasquez and work with cabinet on that, because I don't really think I can make a decision on behalf of some of the assistant superintendents here and so forth. So I think that's a collaborative effort that.
I think that's just something that should have been considered if you're gonna come here with a budget proposal to say we can save money over here too. The numbers didn't look good today. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Carmona.
Yes, now we're gonna go with Mr.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. Good evening, Mr. Nájera, Board President, Acting Superintendent, Mr. Vasquez, members of the board. Mario Carmona, Director of Human Resources. I want to thank you for allowing us to bring this information before you once again. As you might recall, every so often, we make an effort to bring over information related specifically to the health fund status. Here is just somewhat of a unique situation because we are not only addressing the school district's deficit, but we're also going to be addressing the status of the health fund itself. So bear with me. I'm going to go through a couple of reminders before we actually get to the main presentation or information. As I mentioned before, we have brought over this information. I believe the last time that we brought over plan recommendations and proposals was back in September of 2022. We have current plan design and premium rates, current district contribution and employee premiums per employee per month. In addition to that, we'll be going over proposed district contribution and proposed employee premium rates for 2025. We might be a little bit early to make some recommendations. As you might recall, there's an annual open enrollment period that's held in the month of October for the following plan year. But I think it's important since we are addressing the deficit at this point. What you see before you is what we currently offer to our employees. You might recall the 3 options. Those are the Premier, the Base, and the Consumer-Driven Health Plan. You'll see the current plan designs, and a couple of recommendations that were reverted back in, I believe it was either January or February of 2023, were specifically related to the copayment for generic medications and the copayment for urgent care But again, we will address that towards the end of the actual presentation to give you a better idea of what that will look like. The 2024 health plan current rates and plan options are, as I mentioned, three: the Premier, the Base, and the Consumer-Driven. In respect to current rates, you'll see the current district contribution highlighted in yellow. The portion being contributed by the employee is in orange, and the total will be in blue. Each plan offers two networks: PPO, Preferred Provider Organization, which is more of a broad network, if you will, and ACO, Accountable Care Organization, which is healthcare providers are affiliated with hospitals of prominence. Now, in regard to specifically addressing the contribution being made by the school district, I like to bring back the required, as information, the required district premium contribution per employee per month of $225. The current district contribution per employee per month is $575, a difference of $350, a generous contribution for each employee. But to make reference to specific calculating specific amounts, whether it's on a monthly basis and or an annual basis, we're gonna use the numbers for the current month. Ideally, every month for projections or forecast would remain the same, but as we know, every month could change. We have resignations, retirements, new hires, so from month to month, those numbers will fluctuate. But just so we can be consistent in terms of, so we can give you a picture of how this would work, we're using only numbers for April. So again, if we have a continuous number of employee count of 5,355, and the school district contributes $575 per employee, that will translate to a total monthly district contribution of $3 million, a little bit over $3 million. On an annual basis, that will total to $36.9 million. If we were to consider a reduction of the school district's contribution per employee per month from $575 to $425, this is to illustrate what the potential cost avoidance would be from the school district. Same number of individuals on a monthly basis, it will go down to 2.2, and on an annual basis down to 27.3. To give you a side-by-side comparison of those two amounts, you'll see that there is a difference of a little bit over 9.6 million just by making that reduction. And of course, that will be based on, on the difference. The difference here that's being illustrated on this particular slide is of 150. And on a monthly basis, the total monthly premium would be $803,000. That will be the cost avoidance. Or on an annual basis, the potential district cost avoidance could be 9.6 million, as I said. If you wanted to see what the actual contribution would be if we were only contributing the minimum required of 225, that's at the bottom of that particular slide. Now, as you might recall, the health fund has been running on a deficit for a number of years. It's not this last year, the previous year, it's been for several years. And throughout our presentations, we have mentioned that the health fund does not only require some adjustments in the plan design itself, and what we mean by that is deductibles, out-of-pocket maximums, and so on, but the way that we're spending from the health fund itself needed some adjustments, meaning for some levels of coverage, what is being contributed into the fund is not enough to be able to cover their expenses. In addition to that, we will continue to do an annual study of the health fund itself. How is it performing? What are we forecasting for the next plan year? This type of information, what we can do is look at our last 12 months and see what we could possibly trend, how we could trend for the next 12 months and establish rates for that particular upcoming plan year. As I mentioned earlier today, our actual benefits enrollment period, it's in the month of October. So we're hoping that by then we will have this already ironed out and we will have some additional recommendations to the plan design itself. But in respect to cost and expenditures, you'll see, just to give you an example, what's being spent on in relation to the subscriber itself. So for a spouse, the average per member per month cost medical expenses is $1,061. If you were to look at the very far right of that slide, you'll see that in any of the plans, does the employee and or the family contribute enough to what they're spending from the health fund? So think of a scale where we are spending more than what we're contributing into. And that's what's making we're not balanced when it comes to how much money we need in the bucket. This is just another way of looking at the information in terms of how many lives we have covered under the plan. I mentioned earlier that for employee, in respect to what the school district is contributing, we're looking at a little bit over 5,300 employees, but lives that we can consider to be covered under the plan on any given month, you'll see that it's a little bit over 9,500. So that itself, that number is what we look at in terms of how much does every coverage level or every coverage tier needs to contribute into the health fund to be able to have a self-sustainable fund, if you will. The calculated deficit, as you probably might recall from previous board meetings, a question came up in regard to how much would it be needed to be infused into the health fund to be able to, for lack of a better term, to break even. And here we have 8.8 million. What does that mean? You see the total district annual premium contribution of 36.9 million, the total employee premium contributed by the employee of 12.3, and the total contribution into the fund of 49.3 million. If we look at what we spent last year, plus our administrative services, our expenses are 58.1 million. That means that we don't have enough money in that fund, in that bucket, to be able to cover our expenses. What does that mean? That means that if we were to address this at once, that will require an increase of 40% on the premium that is being considered as payment from the employee. No changes to the school district's contribution. That's why we left the 575 as a point of reference. Because once the decisions are made in terms of, yes, there's going to be a change in that particular contribution, or no, there's not going to be, then we can come back before you and tell you what our current status for the health fund is at that point and make additional recommendations in terms of plan designs. So again, if we were to address this, our current deficit at once, this would be the proposal. But in previous meetings, it was requested that we bring a plan. How can we address this in stages? And we provided the information for all three plan options. You'll see the Premier, the Base, and the Consumer-Driven. But to make a comparison side by side, if this was to be something that is approved, you'll see that we would transition from a deficit to a surplus. And you'll see that we're making a projection on how much money we're going to be spending in medical claims. That includes healthcare and prescriptions. And there's a surplus of 135,000. That is what would be considered a self-funded health plan. Another option that we could probably look at is addressing the deficit in 3 years. And you'll see that even though we're making slight changes, we will continue with a deficit because just like any other service, inflation and cost of care will play a factor in this. We're hoping that what we're estimating in terms of medical expenses does not reach 64 million, 67 million, that we are way over what we're projecting. It's very unpredictable to say how many surgeries are going to happen in any given year. We're post-pandemic. A lot of people are going back to their healthcare providers and getting the care that they need. But we are anticipating that by year 2027, if the plan is approved and is followed year after year, at least for 3 years, we can reach a surplus rather than a deficit. As I mentioned earlier, plan design changes will include the change from $0 to $5 for generics. That will be a potential cost avoidance of $340,000. You'll see that in a 12-month period, we dispense 68,000 generics. In terms of the copayment for urgent care clinic, there's a potential cost avoidance of $682,000. And the copayment for the Premier plan would change from 40 to 50, for the base plan from 45 to 75. Of course, the employees that are part of the health plan offered by the school district will still be able to take advantage of the services that are being provided by the employee health clinic, which offers a visit at $10 copay, generics at no cost, services on-site such as lab work, and many other services that I have available. So that is something that we will continue to be able to take advantage of. Another piece of information that was requested is how do we compare with other school districts, and you'll see that slide next. Though I'd like to point out that this is only an illustration of what school districts are contributing on behalf of the employee. Why is that important? Because when it comes to the plan itself, we're not comparing apples to apples. I'll give you an example. Socorro ISD has a PPO and an ACO network, broad and narrow network, if you will. But if we were to compare that to Isleta only offers an ACO network. So it's a good point of reference, but it's not necessarily identical. And of course, you have the premiums there for those particular options. And now I'll turn it over to Mrs. Perez. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those questions. But I know that Ms. Perez will be covering some upcoming future budget schedule.
Questions for Mr. Carmona?
Go ahead. Yes, Mr. Carmona.
Sir?
You want to increase it 40%, and that would save us $40 million. But can you go to your slide where it says 3 years? I guess I'm having trouble understanding this slide. Can you just explain to me in layman terms? It's a 3-year plan. What are we looking at to increase the base plan? And in 3 years, are we going to go in incremental steps?
That is correct. I'm sorry, sir, were you done with your question before I interrupted you? Let me give you an example of how we would address this. If you look at the slide with the proposed premium rates for the effective 1/1/25, you see that for 14, the increase between 160 and 414 would be divided in 3.
Is this the 3-year plan?
That is a premier plan, yes.
Okay, but this is the 3-year plan that we're looking at?
No, this would be if it was addressed at once.
Okay, can we go to the 3-year plan?
So I'm assuming that what you're looking for, what you're trying to see is what the premium would look like year after year. We can bring you that information. We can drill down to that.
Yes, because I know we have to increase it. I know we talked about this several years ago. We had a 5-year plan several years back. Can you give us a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan? I know we're looking at trying to save as much money as we can, but Not at $140 a month for an employee. I think that's drastic. I know we have to increase it, but let's do the baby steps. If I could see a 3-year plan or a 5-year plan to see what we're looking at, this is confusing. I don't understand this. I've been trying to say we could go back to a 3-year plan, 5-year plan, come back, if you could present that to us, I don't know if the rest of the board agrees with that, but I'd like to see a 3-year plan possibly and see what we're looking at with baby steps. Not,
Dr. Gonzalez?
So what we can do, Mr. Guerra, is just go back to this table, these tables, but like break down in 3 years.
Yes.
So you can see the pink part, like the increase every single year to have it, because it's going to be more, not the increase or decrease, it's going to be the share contribution. We're going to shift a little bit on that. That's what we're proposing, of course, the shift and that contribution so we can get finally that 3-year plan.
Thank you, Dr. Gonzalez. And let me elaborate on that. Right now, the numbers that you see before you is with the assumption that everything will continue as we're projecting. What we will do every year, and I can tell you that that's part of our responsibility, is to come back and say on the following year, wait a minute, for this particular level of coverage, no increase is required. Because for this group of people, they're contributing what they need to contribute based on their consumption. For this particular group, we're not. They're short $20. At that point, we will come back and tell you that particular tier of coverage requires a $20 increase. And I'm only using $20 just to give you an example. But the short answer to your question is yes, we can come back with the same numbers, same projections, but please keep in mind that numbers change from one month to the next, but we will do our best effort to give you the most calculated amount at that given point.
thank you.
Mr. Guerra, thank you for asking for that, because right now, with the information you gave us, it's almost 158% increase monthly for every employee. So, if we're able to break it down that way, because at that point, somebody that makes $20 an hour, they have to work a whole week just to make the money to pay for the increase. So I think that would be the transparency that we're asking for.
Thank you, Ms. Macias. I'm glad you said that because our goal is to continue to be offered an option at no cost to employee. So again, that itself, if that's something that the board wishes to continue, that will require additional adjustments because that means that whatever group is not contributing to be part of the plan, someone else who's a participant will need to contribute that. So yes, we can make an effort to bring that information forward.
Also, that is very important. We are keeping the zero cost plan. So the employees still gonna have the opportunity to have that plan with zero cost. And the clinic, of course. But I know it's hard to take this recommendation to hear about this, but we just want to be fiscal responsible and present to the board what needs to be done. It's another deficit. It's a health deficit, different from the fund deficit. So we can break down that information, and in the next workshop, whenever you decide to have the next workshop, we can present more detail and break down that information.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Castellano? The health benefit is exactly that. It's a benefit for the teachers and the employees. It helps them, get through life. We're not going to give them a raise, but we're going to decrease their net revenue because we're going to increase healthcare costs on them, and that's not fair to the employees. We want to keep our teachers here. We want to keep our employees still here working. It's been brought up in the past about the health clinic, that it can save us money, but what has been done to promote it, to push it, to expand it, to expand the hours? And that would save the district, and we can see if the employees will buy into it and actually help save their increased premiums by participating in the district clinics. But it's such limited to 9 to 5 and one location. You haven't pushed that. I think we owe the employees more than that, and just say, we're going to take more money from you because we're running out of money. And it's not their fault we're at this point. You know, they're doing the best job possible, and we shouldn't harm them or their family because we want more money to balance this thing out. It's like everything else. We got to look harder and find ways to save the money. But right now, targeting the employees is the wrong way to go.
Mr. Castellano, if I can just part of that, I know a couple of board meetings ago, Mr. Barrera had asked if we had looked into expanding the health clinic to another area, maybe perhaps south of the freeway. I had mentioned that we were looking at that science building over at Socorro High School, and we have some preliminary drawings on that. I've met with the clinic to look at different, what equipment do they need without adding additional employees, but having, say, twice a week at Socorro High School, say Tuesday, Thursday, we could have skeleton crews at the Montwood site and the Socorro site Tuesdays and Thursdays, but then leave Monday, Wednesday, Friday for the main site at Montwood by Montwood High School, and it would be in the $100,000-ish range to include any renovations to the science building and any equipment that the clinic would need.
And I think that's what we need to look at. And I know it goes further back than when we've asked about the health clinic. And how long has the health clinic been around?
Since 2022.
2022. So we could push harder and get that thing to work and actually save money on the plan and save money for the district.
And that's a point too. If we do approve this plan, the cost at the clinic would remain the same. So I'd imagine there would be more of our employees and their families visiting the clinic. So we'd definitely want to have an increase the hours of operation and perhaps even increase the employees if it gets utilized as much as we think it may.
I think we should give that a shot before we start saying we're going to take more money from the employee.
Maybe utilize some of the kids at Socorro High School that are in HPA, and they could do some of their hours there, and I don't know, utilize the kids and somehow so that they're getting the experience they need and
on the job training.
There's a lot of there you go. There's a lot of things that I think we still need to explore and making sure we had a conversation that we check every single program and make sure that it is truly serving its purpose and meeting it. Are we really doing due diligence to our employees? Because I don't know that we've explored every option. And I know we've talked about this many times, but I know that we've talked about this in committee meetings, making sure that all of our academies are fully.
And just looking at the numbers with the clinic, I mean, even if we were to expand hours of operation and have 2 locations and so forth, I don't know if that's going to give us the cost avoidance that we would need to make a dent, though, in the deficit.
In the deficit, yes. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions for Mr. Carmona?
Yes. You never mentioned the design plan. As far as what I remember when it originally changed was medications went up drastically. They couldn't see certain doctors, and I haven't forgot about that. But that hasn't been addressed here as well. So not only are we increasing charging the employee more, but if they're already having to deal with that component, to increase it is just more burdensome on that. So are we gonna also address the design plan that, to make it better for them so that we can, if we're gonna increase it $100, is there a way to design the plan to where they can still save $100 on the back end somewhere, whether they visit a doctor, it's a copay at a doctor, it's a medication or something along that lines that puts money back in their pocket to compensate the difference? Have we looked at that?
I'm not sure that I'm understanding your question.
So, okay. So there was a medication that somebody described, they had to pay like $1,000 for the medication because it was a new one when we switched to the new plan. To whereas before they were paying, let's say, $200. So now that was an increase, and let's just say it was a monthly medication that they had to get. That's $800 that it went up on them. Now we're asking them to also include, let's say, another $100 on their premium. So as of right now, we go the route that we're going. Over the last 2 years, they're essentially forking out almost $1,000 more for health coverage. So what I'm asking is, are we gonna start looking at, because you never mentioned it or was never addressed, that design plan of the health insurance to drive the cost of those medications or those, visits at the doctor, whatever it is, wherever we can find some way to put money back into that employee to make up the difference that we're asking them to cover. Are you still lost?
No, I'm not lost. I think that if I recall the case or cases you're referring to, we did explain before making the transition to Aetna that there was going to be some disruption, just like with any other change. At that point, we did mention or the people that were going to be affected by the change were informed via email, letter, and so on, to make them aware that whatever, if that was their case, whatever prescription was not going to be covered by the Aetna formulary, which ones there were their options. So they can take that to the healthcare provider so they could find alternatives if there were any. The specific prescription that you're referring to was no longer being offered as a generic at that point by Aetna. So the employee or employees that were inquiring about that had not gone through the process to be able to get that exemption approved. Once they went through the process, that particular formulary or that particular prescription went down to the generic copay, which is $0. It was not something that was not offered or explained before. It was something that was not carried out as we had requested from the participant. In terms of consumption or in terms of co-payments, we have the ability to design whatever co-payments we want because we're self-funded. So if we say for primary care, what we want for the employee to pay now instead of $50 is $10, to your point, that will be the money they're taking back with them. But that will be the responsibility of the school district to establish those co-payments. It won't necessarily follow what we have presented so far in terms of recommendations because we're trying to balance out consumption with expenditures or revenues. But to your point, it all depends on what it's approved. If we propose something as to address the deficiency or deficit of the fund itself, but if the goal is for someone to take money back, then again, the school district contribute instead of 575, contribute 600. And that will be $25 more dollars into someone's pocket. So it all depends on what's being presented and what's being approved or not.
So we haven't actually looked at the plan itself the way I described earlier.
Not at this point. The recommendations, as I mentioned, will come in follow-up workshop, and then that will lead over to our next open enrollment period in the month of October 2024.
Thank you.
Mr. Carmona, plan design would require plan design changes aside from co-pays and coverages, et cetera, things that the district pays or doesn't pay for. Plan design changes would require a new RFP, is that correct?
Potentially. Yes, okay. That could be an option.
Any other questions?
No, and this is a little bit of a side. If I could just recommend, I know you all work very hard to get everything to us, and thank you so much. Whenever you're sharing things with us, push draft on there. That way we know that whenever it's going to be presented, it's still a little different. Just for transparency for our community, oftentimes they want to do public comment or give us feedback as board members. And what they see is somewhat different sometimes of what you all present. And I completely understand you're working till the last moment. So Mr. Vasquez, I asked that if we could receive things a little bit more timely. So again, for transparency. And again, if you're still working, just put draft. We completely understand. But that way in those conversations, it makes it a little easier saying they're still working last minute. Any feedback from what we have now.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care of that. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carmona.
Thank you, everyone.
Ms. Bettis, future budget schedule.
So in front of you, you do have the budget schedule. I'll discuss the next two for right now. We do want to have another workshop the the week of May 7th, and I believe that may take some coordinating because that's also the week of committee meetings. But we do want to be able to present both the compensation and budget information so that we can adopt on May 15th at the regular board meeting. And for the budget part, we would like to adopt that on the regular board meeting in June, on June 19th. So that will take another 2 more. So May 7th, June 5th, and then the adoption of it. After that, certified values, maximum compressed rate will be right before we adopt the tax rate on August 21st, regular board meeting as well. So the only one that I think that we might need to really work on is the May 7th. We did need to see what day works best for everybody so that we can have that information ready for y'all and we can discuss compensation and budget one more time. This is so fun.
Good.
That concludes our presentation. Do you have any questions for either of us?
No questions. Thank you, Ms. Perez.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for today. With there being no further business before this board, we're adjourning. The date is April 24th, 2024, Wednesday. The time is 9:01.